Anissa was a girl of extraordinary beauty, but her life was far from the fairy tale her appearance suggested, painted instead in the somber hues of tragedy. One day, a crazed scientist took her in, but his true intention was to transform her body into a vessel for the soul of his deceased wife. It wasn't until Anissa reached the age of 24 that this horrifying truth was revealed to her. In despair, she chose to depart this fleeting mortal realm to liberate herself. Who could have imagined that fate would grant her a second chance, a return to the past? Meanwhile, Duke Aubrey had lost a daughter. To spare his wife the devastating blow, he chose Anissa to impersonate her. What will Anissa's life be like as the Duke's daughter? Will she succeed in taking revenge on the mad scientist who ruined her previous life? Let's follow the unfolding of this story. During my past life, while I was being experimented on, rumors spread that the ruler of the Green Territory was searching for his missing daughter, a man perceived by the outside world as arrogant, reckless, and a liar. In truth, what he sought was a stand-in. You asked how I know this. That man obsessed with beauty and all things green, the patriarch of the Green family, Duke Aubrey, brought about a regrettable end. This man because the stand-in he found was me. Anissa nervously watched the Duke. His daughter had disappeared when she was less than a year old. Even now, I still don't understand how he knew what his daughter looked like. Faced with Duke Aubrey's absurd reply, Anissa was rendered speechless because my daughter looked just like me. So, if you're to impersonate my daughter, you must meet this standard. The little girl, extremely tense, had no idea what he was about to do. Then, Duke Aubrey handed Anissa a piece of paper and demanded, "Now, I'm going to ask you a few questions. Write the answers here." The little girl sat blankly, behaving like an orphan with no right to object. Isn't this just a blank piece of paper? Immediately following this, Duke Aubrey set a condition for Anissa. If you pass my test, then for the next 4 years, you can be my daughter and live a life no worse than anyone else's. The little girl immediately asked, 5 years. He sighed deeply, then retorted, "Why would you think you could live forever as my beloved daughter?" Anissa searched her memories silently. No, although in her memories of her past life, he was also a very disciplined man. Anissa forced a smile and explained, "I thought it was just a superficial substitution." Duke Aubrey began to say things to manipulate the little girl's psychology, because during this time, there are some things you must do. After 5 years, you can go abroad to study. Hearing this, Anissa could only pout and contemplate. In short, it was enough to do a good job as a stand-in. Actually, being adopted by a suitable merchant would be even better. Duke Aubrey declared sternly, "Then let's begin the interview. What are your hobbies?" Anissa thought for a long time, then hesitantly replied, "Reading, for one." He spoke directly to the little girl's face with a sarcastic tone. "Doesn't seem like much, but you've received some early education." Anissa could only curse him in her heart. So rude. Duke Aubrey continued with another question. "How old are you?" Anissa hesitated, calculating back and forth, then answered, "About 10 years old, I think." He immediately corrected her. "My daughter is 11. You should know that." Anissa felt uncomfortable with his overbearing attitude. Then why did you ask me?" Now the little girl could only sit there and accept her fate as if she were really in a job interview, even though she had never experienced one firsthand. Duke Aubrey hastily said, "Now write the answer on the paper I gave you earlier." Intuitively, Anissa anxiously guessed, "Is he going to give me a math problem?" Duke Aubrey's lips moved, as if he was ready. As Anissa had anticipated, the Duke had prepared a lengthy mathematics problem. There was a donut, which could only be cut twice with a knife, into X pieces. There were 3 murderers and 3 priests, and to restore the murderer's humanity, they had to be brought to the temple. The more Anissa listened, the more bewildered she became. "Sir, please have mercy." After reading the thesis-length problem, the Duke immediately urged Anissa, "It's simple, solve it quickly." "Why are you spacing out?" The little girl gasped in surprise. "You don't think this is a munsa, do you?" "What's a munsa?" "I've never heard that word. However, I seem to know the answer to this problem." While writing the answer on the paper, the little girl lamented her fate. "Really, how did I end up like this? To explain why I've become like this, I have to recall my miserable life." Anissa thought back to that terrible time, screams echoing in her mind. "Among the children who were bought, only one survived. In short, I was originally a mad scientist experiment. Due to the after effects of the experiment, my childhood memories gradually disappeared. Until I was 24, I always thought he was my father, enduring countless painful experiments. But in fact, I was just a vessel for a madman to house the soul of his deceased wife. After learning the truth of the betrayal, I closed my eyes and lay on the cold table in the laboratory, thinking I would leave this world just like that. When I opened my eyes again, I had returned to the past, the very day I first entered the orphanage and was sold to him. My life has been miserable enough, hasn't it? Does it have to be even more miserable? Back in the present, Anissa still sat absent-mindedly, recalling what had happened in her past life. Fortunately, that mad scientist often bought newspapers, which I secretly read, so I roughly knew what would happen in the next 10 years. I saw this man's name many times in the newspapers, Duke Hikola Aubrey, who held power second only to the royal family in the empire. The man who controlled 50% of the empire's commercial districts, the youngest of the 3 brothers in the Duke's family, the one who defeated his 2 older brothers to become the family heir. Surviving in a family full of hypocrisy, it was probably inevitable that he would become a wicked and sharp person. Seeing Anissa sitting motionless like a statue, Duke Aubrey asked, "Why are you looking at me instead of solving the problem?" The little girl startled awake and replied, I'm finished." Hearing this, he was a little doubtful. "You finished so quickly. You didn't just scribble something down, did you?" Anissa still couldn't stop immersing herself in her thoughts. He's very gentle to his wife, and everyone doesn't know that he actually listens to the Blue Ruler. But how do I know this? After returning to the past, strangely enough, there's always a sense of familiarity with things that happen for the first time, and information about the other person naturally appears. Is this a side effect of the experiment? After checking Anissa's answers, the Duke commented, "All correct. Although I don't know how you solved all the problems in such a short time." The little girl confidently pointed to her face and replied, "Right? It must be because I have a bit of a genius quality." Duke Aubrey also became interested. "Really? That's great. You barely meet the requirements. I'm a genius too, so let's adopt this child." In this touching moment, he suddenly changed his tone. Well, although her appearance is a bit, Anissa couldn't help but feel annoyed at the Duke's picky attitude. "Objectively speaking, I'm still quite cute, okay? Actually, should I have answered a few questions wrong? Even though I've returned to the past, all I have is this body. Why is there an interview for a stand-in for the Duke's daughter? I have to start from 3 months ago, about how I'm miraculously resurrected." At that time, the little girl's thoughts became chaotic, always dwelling on negative things. So painful, so lonely is this death. Right? It's that simple. I want to leave this world. Anissa, still reeling from shock, found herself sitting on a grassy lawn. The sound of a child's cries drifted from nearby, and she looked up to see a nanny comforting a little girl. Rania, being adopted by a noble is an honor, the nanny soothed. Rania sobbed, "But I don't want to leave you." Anissa still couldn't comprehend what had happened. Wasn't death supposed to be the end of all feeling? Why did her body ache all over, as if she'd been beaten? She was certain she was no longer alive. She seemed to drift in a bewildering current of life. The little girl looked up at the sky, thinking the horizon seemed so low. And this strange pain, it's been there since I woke up. Rania, she thought, the name unfamiliar, yet somehow known. The nanny's encouraging voice broke through her thoughts. "You'll be a wonderful girl, I know it. Now off you go." Those words triggered something in Anissa's memory. That tone, it was reserved for children being adopted by nobles. In that lost memory, Anissa stood there, still as a wooden doll in a hellish orphanage. When I grew older, due to the aftereffects of the experiments, my skin sagged. The slightest breeze caused excruciating pain. Even the stench of poison was preferable to the odor clinging to me. Anissa stared at her small hands, realizing I'm back. The pain that was so intense moments ago, it's gone. It's a miracle. Long, undamaged hair, fair skin, slightly thin, but adorably plump fingers. This isn't a dream, she thought. I'm finally free. The freedom she had longed for, the life she had craved, began to bloom in vibrant colors. Clenching her small fists, she offered a weak smile. Perhaps God took pity on me. A blissful smile spread across the little girl's face. This was her chance to start over. But before she could fully embrace this joy, Anissa noticed the cursed inscription from her past life, still vividly etched on her arm. Anissa froze, aghast. "Oh, what's this?" The little girl trembled in fear. Why are the marks of the experiments still here? It's all right, even if I have to start over, even if I have no power. The primary cause of her death in her past life, those ancient, irremovable markings that covered her body, would eventually lead to her demise again. But these marks were still limited. Anissa could only wipe away the tears of anguish with her hand. I thought I could live a decent life this time. I can't allow myself to remain this weak forever. She quickly composed herself, a new resolve hardening her gaze. If I return to the past, that man is still alive. He probably won't recognize me. The bitter sting of vengeance flickered across Anissa's face. Things being as they are, I can't let him go unpunished. I will destroy his laboratory and his entire life. The little girl slowly rose to her feet, the seeds of her plan taking root. First, I must gain the support of the people here. I need a letter of recommendation. Within the Empire's most prestigious orphanage, a secret festered. While children who excelled in their studies could receive the patronage of nobles, most children were not so fortunate. Those who performed poorly and displeased the teachers, at some point, they would simply vanish after supposedly being adopted. Their disappearance might be for the same reason as mine. Anissa closed her eyes, setting her sights on her goal. Excel in my studies, secure patronage. I'm no longer the blindly weak girl I once was. And then, I will have my revenge. Anissa entered the kitchen and began chopping cucumbers with the practiced ease of a seasoned chef. Her movements so swift and precise that the nanny and the other children couldn't help but marvel at the little girl's skill. A short while later, Anissa finished her task and promptly reported to the nanny. "Excuse me, I've finished. Everything is done. Is there anything else I can do?" The nanny stared in disbelief. So quickly. "Well then, Anissa, you may go back." The girl bowed politely and replied, "Thank you. I will work hard to become a good student and repay your kindness." The nanny watched Anissa, 1,000 questions swirling in her mind. It was clearly the girl's first time learning kitchen work, and the nanny couldn't help but think, no wonder everyone wants this child. There's definitely a reason. Is this really the same child who used to struggle so much with her studies? The transformation in just 3 months is astounding. In the nanny's eyes, Anissa had become a completely different girl. Anissa, in turn, was subtly observing the nanny's expression. This reaction was different from her past life. This nanny is already scheming against me, she realized. Should I arrange for her to be stuck in the kitchen for a month? Anissa offered a bright, guileless smile. "Then I'll be going now, madam." But inwardly, the little girl's thoughts were far from innocent. This woman is probably one of the people who will evaluate me, which means she needs to be added to my list. Outside in the hallway, Anissa walked, her mind racing. Even if I excel in my studies, it will be difficult to earn points from someone already familiar with me. I used to drag my aching body around, cooking and cleaning, just to earn the favor of that mad scientist. The memory sparked a fresh wave of anger. I will have my revenge. Lost in her turbulent thoughts, Anissa bumped into someone. The little girl quickly apologized, but the other person snapped at her in a contemptuous tone. "What good is an apology? You've dirted my clothes. You piece of trash." His words flushed Anissa's face with anger. He stood there, watching her continued silence, and pressed his advantage. "Is an apology enough? Would you say the same if you killed someone? The likes of you shouldn't even be speaking to me." Anissa, too weary to argue, simply replied, "Yes, I suppose so." The boy pointed at her face. "What? Don't you know who I am?" Anissa smiled. "I know. Aren't you the one receiving aid from Count Charlotte? The sponsorship system, an orphanage system. If the sponsored child achieves good results, the sponsoring noble's reputation improves." He continued to hurl insults. "You can't even remember my name. You're just a worthless nobody." Anissa lightly grasped his finger, her expression turning sly. "Be careful. That Count's family is the kind of place where people can be assassinated without even a need for an apology. Sever ties quickly, or you might end up the same way." Her veiled threat sent the boy into a rage. "What nonsense are you spouting? Do you want to meet your ancestors, or do you want a beating?" Anissa looked away, as if observing something, then put on a pitiful expression, goading him. "Go on then, try hitting me." Taking her apparent invitation, he raised his fist to strike her, when suddenly the nanny's voice rang out. "Pete, what are you doing there? Resorting to violence? I can't believe it." He immediately denied. "It's not like that." Anissa stood beside him, feigning distress. "It is. As long as you're sponsored, they turn a blind eye to anything you do." He's probably saying this because I'm about to be sponsored too. The little girl turned to look at the nanny, Irina, thinking, and it's also to curry favor with the cloaked person behind him. That person is someone of high rank. Anissa's expression brightened. I saw him observing when he arrived. Pete made a mistake in front of such an important person, so he won't be easily forgiven. He'll be confined to solitary at the very least. Irina called softly, "Anissa." The little girl replied with a radiant smile, "Yes, Miss Irina, I'm fine." Meanwhile, she was already plotting her revenge against Pete. If I receive a noble sponsorship now, I'll personally rub his nose in it. Anissa's thoughts were abruptly interrupted when Miss Irina gestured for her to come closer, causing her to stiffen. Miss Irina presented Anissa to a duke. "This is the child you requested." Anissa was stunned. Things were moving much faster than she anticipated. While she had expected immediate action, being adopted by someone who had just witnessed the entire altercation had certainly ruined her first impression. Anissa cleared her throat, regaining her composure, and curtsied swiftly. "It's a pleasure to meet you," she said. "I am Anissa." The little girl looked up at him, her expression a mixture of shyness and innocent curiosity. The Duke, however, responded to her polite greeting with a chilling silence. "Well," Anissa thought, "no matter how you look at it, I'm the victim here. He's not going to spit in my face, is he?" Though his reaction is a bit frosty. After a moment, he finally spoke. "Have you been taught noble etiquette?" Irina, the nanny, offered a strained smile. "Yes, quite a few of our children are chosen as assistant maids or servants, so we provide them with etiquette lessons." Anissa inwardly rejoiced. He seemed reasonably satisfied. "This is fortunate." The Duke suddenly turned back to Anissa. "How did you know I was a noble?" Startled, the little girl thought, "Because of that haughty tone and the quality of your cloak, of course." Those words, however, remained unspoken. Thanks to her quick wit, Anissa replied smoothly, "Because your posture and manner of speaking are so refined." Anissa offered the compliment, but the Duke took it at face value. "Not even my cloak can hide my distinguished air." His words left the little girl dumbfounded. "Huh, I said that out of fear, hoping he might become my benefactor. I didn't realize he had such a severe narcissism problem." Still, those glimpses of violet eyes are undeniably beautiful and mysterious. Speaking of which, didn't he specifically ask to see me? How do you even know about me? Irina smiled at Anissa. "It's impolite to keep our guest waiting. Come with me." The little girl obediently replied, "Yes, ma'am," but her curiosity remained piqued. "I'll just follow and see what happens." Inside the guest reception room, Irina greeted the Duke respectfully. "Please have a seat here. Tea will be served shortly. First, allow me to introduce this child, Anissa." Sitting beside him, Anissa was also surprised. It was the first time she had seen Miss Irina so humble. "Is he really such a powerful noble?" The Duke declined coldly. "There's no need for introductions. You may leave." Irina asked, bewildered why. "But there are still matters to discuss regarding the adoption." He glanced at the nanny. "When did I say anything about adoption? The evaluation and decision are mine alone." "Leave?" Anissa stood shyly beside the nanny. Even someone as proud as Miss Irina has never encountered someone so difficult, have they? Miss Irina is the most prejudiced of all the teachers, so proud of everything she does in this orphanage, and the most oppressive to me and the other common children. It's rare to see her lower herself like this. While Anissa was preoccupied with these thoughts, the nanny suddenly snapped, "Anissa." To Anissa's astonishment, Irina rushed over and embraced her warmly. "You must never be disrespectful to a guest." Anissa met the nanny's harsh gaze, the memory flashing back. "See, I'm always an easy target," used as a vent for her anger. The little girl still replied politely, "Yes, ma'am." After admonishing Anissa, Irina quickly departed. "If you have any requests, please let me know." Now she was alone with the difficult Duke. "It's all right. A good child must be clever and well-behaved. Let's see if she can still smile after I stab her in the back." The Duke suddenly spoke. "So bothersome. Such a hassle." Anissa jumped, realizing that I almost forgot to act cute. She offered an eager smile, only to realize his discomfort stemmed from the furry coat. Anissa could only stare blankly. "So it wasn't because of me." The Duke then ordered the little girl to sit. Anissa, maintaining her smile with effort, replied, "Yes, sir." The Duke's long green hair and violet eyes captivated Anissa's attention. It was a rare combination, made even more striking by his handsome features. "But I feel like I've seen that face somewhere before." Suddenly, the Duke began to speak. "You look like a scrawny little dog." His words pierced Anissa's fragile heart like a knife. "This is my first encounter with this ill-fated man," she thought. "The rare genius, the cruel and bitter Shakur Aubrey, Duke of, well, somewhere, who will soon meet his demise." Having passed all the Duke's difficult tests and questions, Anissa found herself being whisked away to his palace. "Let's go," he'd said. Now, seated in the carriage, the little girl gazed out with a bewildered expression. "We're really just leaving like this. What about the adoption papers? The month of pre-adoption education." Noticing Anissa's attitude, Duke Aubrey glanced at her and asked, "Are you feeling some reluctance?" The little girl immediately denied it. "No, I barely even had time to think," she thought. "When I first saw him, I was thinking about how this man is definitely going to die and his family will be ruined. This isn't some game of who explodes first." She continued her internal monologue. "Come to think of it, why did this man bow out? I remember now. After his frail and sickly wife died, consumed by grief, he lost control of his magic during a royal hunt and nearly killed a member of the royal family. In the end, he was assassinated by the very person he loved and pursued relentlessly, the ruler of the Green Power, Alpha Alio, Duke of Oliggo. After that, the Green Power was deemed an evil force and sealed away, and the family met with disaster. But then the female protagonist with the Green Power appeared, and the story repeated itself." Anissa sat frozen in shock. What female protagonist? What am I even saying? This isn't a novel. Is this also a side effect of the experiment? The little girl cradled her aching head. "Ever since the experiment, so many strange things have been happening. Do I have some kind of superpower to predict the future? Or something? Even escaping the gates of hell comes with after effects. This is ridiculous, and time is running out." Duke Aubrey had been sitting and staring at Anissa without speaking. Suddenly, he addressed her. "Your name is Anissa." Startled, the little girl replied, "Yes." Duke Aubrey sternly reminded her, "Before we arrive, I need to tell you some rules and precautions. First, discard your name. Remember, from now on, your name is no longer Anissa, but Annette Aubrey." Anissa still couldn't believe she would be living under a new identity. After a long journey, the two finally arrived. The Duke took the opportunity to introduce the estate. "This is where you will live from now on, the Aubrey Ducal Estate." It was Anissa's first time seeing such a luxurious place. "Completely different from where I used to be. This is magnificent." A woman hurried out from a mansion. As soon as she saw Anissa, tears welled up in her eyes, and she said in a gentle voice, "Darling." The little girl looked at her, speculating inwardly, "This must be Rosanna, the woman who will become my mother, and the first victim in the Aubrey family tragedy." However, what worried Anissa most was the Duke's attitude. He seemed anxious, as if terrified she would make a mistake. Did he think I forgot everything he said in the carriage? "Forget your name. From now on, your name is Annette Aubrey. The moment you enter the ducal estate, you must call me father, and when you meet my wife, call her mother. You must swear to play the role of my daughter well and be faithful to that role." In the carriage, Anissa had curiously asked the Duke, "Wouldn't it be easier to just find your real daughter?" Duke Aubrey had taken a moment to explain, "Of course, I found her, but that child has passed away. I can't let my wife know." His face became sorrowful whenever this painful story was mentioned. "Any mention of this matter is forbidden. Also, you have an older brother. If you need help while I'm away, tell him. He also knows you're not real. Don't forget, from this moment on, for the next 5 years, you will be the only daughter of the ducal family." Anissa recalled Duke Aubrey's threatening words, his promise to send her back to the orphanage if her true identity was ever revealed. Before arriving here, the young girl had been scolded by the Duke. "All you do is agree. My daughter should be bright, cheerful, and likable, just like me." The problem was this: how was a child, orphaned from a young age, supposed to suddenly act like she had parents? Rosanna, unable to contain her joy, rushed forward, calling out Annette's name. Startled, the little girl quickly hid behind the Duke. He glanced at Anissa, worried she would ruin everything. Unexpectedly, Anissa's performance was breathtaking. Forcing out poignant tears, she cried out, "Mother!" Duke Aubrey hadn't expected this at all. Anissa had already prepared her script. "I never thought I could act so convincingly." A daughter reunited with her parents would naturally be overjoyed. Afraid of rejection, afraid of the unfamiliar surroundings, she would naturally cling to the adult she'd met a few times. Clutching the Duke's coat, Anissa thought glumly, "Though I don't want to understand these nuances." Rosanna, her hand trembling, reached out to the little girl. "Annette, it's Mother. I'm sorry. I've only just found you. It's all my fault. Can you give your mother a hug, my child? Anissa lowered her head, seemingly hesitant. Then, the little girl suddenly looked up, her expression innocent and pitiful. She ran towards her new mother, seemingly immersed in overwhelming happiness. This embrace, so warm, yet why does my heart ache? Is it because I shouldn't accept the Duchess's kindness, or because these tears remind me of those hellish days? Either way, I can't let that happen again. At least, for now, I can cry freely. The Duke, standing to the side, said, "Rosanna will frighten you." She replied with a smile, "Just look at me." The Duke rushed to his wife's side. "We still need to show the child her room. Let's go inside. You're not feeling well either." Anissa was utterly astonished by the Duke's gentle demeanor. She couldn't believe he was capable of speaking in such a tone. Rosanna said affectionately to the little girl, "Darling, go and rest first. All right, we'll have dinner together tonight." "Okay." Anissa agreed with a bright smile. "Okay, mother." Finally, Lady Rosanna was helped back to her room by the servants to rest. After she left, Duke Aubrey asked, "Were those real tears?" Anissa lifted her face to look at him. Then, with a proud expression, she replied, "It was all acting." The Duke asked blankly, "Acting?" Anissa answered confidently, "Yes. Isn't my role to be the Duke's intelligent, lively, and adorable daughter?" Anissa's words nearly made the Duke fall over backward. Speechless, he turned and instructed the servants. "The young lady has returned. Serve her with utmost dedication. Not a hair on her head is to be harmed." Anissa suddenly noticed something. All the servants replied in unison, "As you command, master." What surprised Anissa was the sheer number of servants who would be attending to her. Duke Aubrey stood beside her and asked in surprise, "What's so surprising? From now on, this is your home." They entered the castle together. Despite his words, there wasn't much to look forward to, really. These illusions would only last for 5 years. And so, Anissa officially began her life as Annette. Two maids greeted Annette with smiles. "Welcome back, Mississippi. My name is Mary, and this is Cordial." It being their first meeting, the little girl was hesitant. She hadn't expected to be separated from the Duke so soon, but she was following instructions, so there shouldn't be any problems. Mary spoke up, "Please, miss, feel free to talk to us." However, Annette only responded with a non-committal MMM. This was a good start. No, wait. Annette panicked, rushing into the room and slamming the door shut. "Wait, I can manage on my own. You can leave." The two maids stared blankly at Annette's face, while the little girl was too frightened to speak. Even bathing requires assistance. It's so troublesome. I've never done this with the Duke before. Mary tried to persuade her, "But miss, you should let us help you bathe." Annette still refused to help. "That's not what I mean. It's just..." The little girl was now in an extremely difficult situation. "Oh dear, how am I supposed to undress? If I take my clothes off here, those marks will be discovered." Annette began to feign shyness, looking at Mary and Cordelia. Then she said to them in a shy voice, "I feel embarrassed." Hearing this excuse, both Mary and Cordelia were taken aback. "Then we'll prepare the water for you and wait in the room." Annette squeezed her eyes shut, sobbing softly. "But I also want to dress myself." She told herself that she absolutely couldn't reveal her secret to the Duke. If discovered, she would surely be abandoned immediately, as there would be no reason to raise a defective child who could die at any moment. Annette looked at the markings on her wrist and thought, "Although I can hide them now, I should find another solution. Once I'm familiar with this mansion, this excuse won't work anymore." Suddenly, an idea flashed through the little girl's mind. "Speaking of which, isn't there that stuff? Chameleon clay, invented by some eccentric scientist, was a substance that, when applied to the skin, could change the color of that area like a chameleon. Many people bought it to cover scars or burns. With that, these markings should be instantly concealed. If there were any problems, it would be a few years before this product appeared on the market. I can't wait a few years. I have to get it within at least 6 months. I have to find that eccentric scientist and have him make it beforehand. Fortunately, I'm quite familiar with that scientist. That eccentric scientist is that hateful mad scientist who used me before. Thanks to that mad scientist's insecurities, I know what he likes and dislikes. As long as the bait is cast, the fish will definitely bite." After Annette came out, Mary and Cordelia were already waiting. "Are you finished bathing? Was it difficult to bathe alone, Mississippi?" She said to them shyly, I'd like to tour the Duke's mansion." Mary immediately asked with concern, "Aren't you tired? Would you like to rest in your room for a while?" The little girl replied, I'm fine, because I have to familiarize myself with this mansion quickly." In a luxurious dining hall, Annette sat bored at the table. After going through so much, it's already dinner time. Cordelia suddenly appeared, announcing to the little girl, "It's almost dinner time," Mississippi Annette thought as she ate. This Duke's mansion is truly enormous. It took almost 2 full days to tour it. At the dinner table, Rosanna kept attending to her little daughter. "Annette, does this food suit your taste?" With a joyful expression, the little girl replied, "It's delicious." She recalled the hardships of her previous life. "Because before I was reborn, I only received 4 drops at the orphanage and could only eat communal meals." Hearing Annette say she liked it, Rosanna brought out countless kinds of pastries for the little girl to enjoy. "Really? Then try this. It's very tasty." Annette became even more excited. "Okay, thank you." Looking at the beautiful dishes before her, the little girl couldn't resist her cravings. Although she couldn't eat everything, it was truly delicious. "If only I could eat so well for the rest of my life." Just as she was feeling happy, Rosanna suddenly said, "Well, I also want to ask you a favor, with all due respect. Could you call me Mother?" The heartfelt words from this mother made Annette fall silent. After a few seconds, she continued to express her feelings. "I've heard that you're much more mature than your peers. Although I can't change the time I wasn't by your side, I still hope you can live comfortably here." Just as she finished expressing her heartfelt wish, Annette called Rosanna Mother. "From now on, I'll call you Mother," Anissa declared, her voice carefully modulated. "Thank you, Mother, for always searching for me and never giving up." Rosanna beamed at the words, her face radiant with joy, while Duke Shakur Aubrey stared, utterly taken aback by Annette's sudden declaration. Annette flicked a glance at him, thinking, "What's so surprising? I'm just playing the part." Suddenly, a strange sound pierced the air. What was that? The atmosphere in the room shifted, turning icy cold. "Annette, truly," Rosanna began, her voice laced with terror. The words died in her throat as a viscous, black stain bloomed on the floor before the little girl, and Rosanna vanished. Annette stared at the spot where her adoptive mother had been, confusion clouding her features. Duke Shakur, his face a mask of panic, scooped up his wife's unconscious form. "Quickly, take her to her room." He barked at the hovering maids. The situation was clearly far more serious than Anissa had anticipated. It was a miracle Rosanna hadn't collapsed sooner. For the first time, Anissa saw genuine fear and worry etched on the Duke's usually impassive face. Deciding she needed to take control of the situation, Anissa called for Mary, one of the maids. Mary turned, her posture stiff with readiness, awaiting instructions. While Anissa didn't know how to cure Rosanna's ailment, she knew how to alleviate the symptoms. Mary, she instructed, prepare some hot water, white sugar, and powdered peony root. Dry roast the peony root in a pan before grinding it into a powder. Peonies, though common wildflowers, were a key ingredient in treating this particular affliction. Processed and administered correctly, they could provide swift relief. Mary hurried off to follow her instructions. As for Anissa, she simply had to maintain the facade of a cheerful, bright, and precocious child. A short while later, Rosanna stirred, the Duke still at her side. "Are you all right?" the Duke asked, his voice thick with concern. Rosanna's brow furrowed with worry. "Did I frighten our daughter?" she murmured. "That's not what a good mother should do." The Duke's heart ached at her words. The somber atmosphere was broken only when Anissa, approaching the bedside, addressed Rosanna as mother once more. "I brought you some medicine," she announced. Shakur was instantly alarmed. He had no idea what concoction the child had brewed. Despite the turmoil within, he forced himself to maintain the image of a benevolent father. "Annette," he said gently, "your mother isn't feeling well. Perhaps another time." But the little girl ignored him, walking straight to Rosanna's side and offering her the cup. Shakur eyed the unfamiliar liquid in Anissa's hand with suspicion. A flicker of anger sparked within him. "What is the meaning of this?" he demanded, his voice sharp. He felt a pang of regret for bringing this mysterious child into his home. Anissa, however, showed no fear, turning to face him with a disarming smile. The Duke was momentarily stunned. "It's all right, Father," Anissa said soothingly. "Aren't I a genius? Just like you said." Rosanna, so enamored with her daughter, couldn't bring herself to refuse, even though she had no idea what the medicine was. She slowly drank the entire cup. Shakur watched, his unease growing. "It's sweeter than I expected," Rosanna remarked, with a slightly bitter aftertaste. Anissa snuggled against her mother, beaming. "That's because I want you to get better quickly," she chirped. "I'll go now, mother. Rest well." With that, she slipped away, leaving the Duke bewildered and deeply unsettled. He couldn't fathom what the child was up to. The moment Anissa was out of the room, a tremor ran through her. She had appeared confident, but the Duke's anger had frightened her. "It's okay," she told herself. "Even if I make a few mistakes, I won't be scolded, abused, or taken away for experiments. I handled it well. There's no problem. I came here to escape all that, to avoid that kind of suffering. This isn't a laboratory." A sudden voice startled her. It was two of the maids, their faces friendly. Anissa, unable to reveal her inner turmoil, forced herself to play the innocent child, feigning fear and claiming she was still shaken from the Duke's earlier reprimand. Meanwhile, back in their chambers, Rosanna complained to her husband about his coldness towards their beloved daughter, whom they had gone to such lengths to recover. Duke Shakur replied, perplexed, "I thought you were about to give her some strange concoction." Rosanna laughed. "Didn't I bring the medicine specifically for her? How thoughtful of me. I know you don't know her well yet, but don't be so cold to her in the future." Rosanna playfully pinched her husband's cheek. "Promise me." All right. Suddenly, Duke Shakur noticed his wife's cough had subsided. Rosanna herself was surprised. Her breathing was even, and the chill that had plagued her was gone. She had never stopped coughing so quickly. Confusion clouded her features. What had happened? Had that strange medicine worked? Or was it simply a fortunate turn in her illness? But the Duke couldn't shake the feeling that if it were mere coincidence, Anissa wouldn't be wearing such a knowing smile. Duke Shakur turned and summoned the steward, Pedro. "Quickly, fetch Mary and Cordelia," he ordered, wanting to ascertain if Anissa had done anything unusual. He gently coaxed Rosanna to rest. He knew this deception wasn't good for either Anissa or his wife. When he first saw Anissa's picture, he believed his daughter had truly returned. He'd clung to the hope that this child might somehow alleviate his wife's suffering. Rosanna had once been the picture of health, but some 13 years ago, she had contracted a mysterious illness. Around the same time, the anti-noble factions within the empire had stirred up considerable unrest, fueled by the emperor's inept rule. The previous emperor was recorded in history as the worst tyrant, cruelly exploiting the people, forcing the nobility to increase taxes on their own lands. This horrific reign led to riots and constant warfare, with taxes soaring and the threat of the empire no longer a deterrent. The people saw an opportunity. When some nobles beheaded commoners, the populace rose up in a brutal retaliation, stealing noble children, wanting to inflict the same pain of loss on their oppressors. More and more children from noble families disappeared, including Duke Shakur's own daughter. A nanny, long loyal to the family, whose own son had been taken by the nobles, had stolen his daughter, Annette. During this chaotic period, the only son of a prominent Marquis family was found dead. Led by the grieving Marquis and a 15-year-old prince, the nobles staged a coup, fueled by the empire's simmering discontent. Coupled with the nobles' own fury, the coup succeeded. With the tyrant deposed, the missing children gradually began to return. But some children never came back, like his daughter and the son of House Oliggo. Fortunately, the Oliggo heir was found shortly thereafter. Hearing this news, Rosanna seemed to regain her will to live, clinging to the hope that her daughter, too, was somewhere out there, and that she was safe and well. But in the end, all Duke Shakur found was his daughter's charred remains. The body wore the green family necklace, leaving no room for doubt. But Duke Shakur couldn't bring himself to break the news to his wife. He bore the agonizing burden alone. Seeing the flicker of hope, the spark of life return to his wife's despairing face, he couldn't bear to subject Rosanna to the thousand-fold agony he was enduring. So he brought home a green-haired child, close in age to his lost daughter. From the moment he first met Anissa at the orphanage, to the girl's emotionally choked greeting upon meeting his wife, her performance had been a breathtaking spectacle. That tearful reunion, he wondered if his own daughter, had she truly returned, would have reacted the same way, growing up in the loving embrace of her family. The Duke had briefly considered asking Anissa to call him father as well, but the thought quickly dissipated. Though Anissa's appearance and voice were identical, he never truly doubted that his daughter had been replaced. Annette's eyes, much like his own, were a pale violet, a color immutable without experimental intervention. A short while later, when the steward entered with the maids, they recounted Anissa's request faithfully. Duke Shakur couldn't fathom where the girl had procured such a remedy. He inquired after Anissa's activities, to which the maids replied that the young miss was resting in her room. Mary even ventured to add that the young miss seemed somewhat frightened, claiming it was the first time she had been scolded by an adult. The Duke froze for a moment. He knew he had erred in reprimanding the girl and felt compelled to make amends. He asked the maids what gifts children typically enjoyed. He then purchased a mountain of cakes and sweets, leaving Anissa utterly bewildered. She was still contemplating how to contact the eccentric scientist when the old man suddenly presented her with this sugary bounty. She asked the Duke where he had acquired such a hoard. He simply replied that he had found them on the road, though where one might find such things late at night was beyond her. Then, Duke Shakur delicately inquired if Anissa was feeling any better, leaving her further perplexed as to what had upset her in the first place. Suddenly, it dawned on her. Could this be an apology for his earlier outburst? Anissa showered the Duke with praise, extolling his virtues. This brought a wide smile to the narcissistic Duke's face. Unbelievable, she thought, how easily manipulated he was. Morning arrived swiftly, Anissa having spent the night strategizing. She felt that with her current resources, contacting the brilliant but eccentric scientist would be difficult. She needed to strike a deal with the Duke first, but having been there such a short time, she wasn't accustomed to giving orders. Facing a brilliant yet mad scientist with insufficient funds was a daunting prospect. Her initial plan was to steal some of the mad scientist's future ideas, such as new applications for magic stones. A single magic stone could only hold one attribute. Imbuing it with fire made it a fire magic stone. However, with a slight modification, she believed she could create a dual effect stone. By melting a fire magic stone and a water magic stone together at a specific temperature, she theorized she could create a combination stone capable of producing hot springs. Anissa planned to impress Duke Shakur with this, making the acquisition of funds much easier. As she passed the two maids, Anissa didn't notice one of them deliberately trip her, sending her tumbling to the floor. As she puzzled over what had just happened, the maid sneered. "Miss, are you all right? You must watch where you're going." They even exchanged snickers, one remarking, "I told you that girl needs some knowledge in her head before she can hold it high." The other added, "Indeed. If I'd known, I would have stayed at the orphanage." Just in time for the good news from the other family's headhunters. "I'm still considering whether or not to go," one mused. Anissa trembled with rage. Wherever she went, she encountered this kind of bullying. Did they want to see her cry? She wouldn't give them the satisfaction. Anissa dramatically cried out in pain. The maids feigned concern, saying, "Oh dear, it was an accident. We're so sorry." This time, Anissa donned her most innocent, guileless expression and asked, "Am I truly that disliked?" The maids tittered. "Well, how can we put this?" Anissa replied, "Then I shall tell father everything, leaving nothing out. And about you mentioning other families wanting to recruit you. I shall tell father you don't want carapulence, and that's why you wish to leave." Feeling better now, the two maids' smiles vanished, though they still tried to mask their fear. "If you're this stubborn, people will only dislike you more. It's obvious you fell on your own." Anissa scoffed inwardly. These women were blatantly lying. She was tired of hearing such nonsense, a relic from her time with the mad scientist. She uttered a soft ah, then her expression hardened. "So you think I'm easy prey?" They exchanged bewildered glances. This time, Anissa didn't need to curry favor with the household staff. The Duke and Duchess's affection was all she needed to thrive in this world. Taking a deep breath, she repeated in a sterner tone, "I ask you, my father brought me here. Do you not trust my father? Because I am a genius. I can relay everything to him perfectly. I advise you not to try and drive a wedge between us. My mother loves me so much. How could father possibly dislike his own daughter?" The maids jumped to argue. "Wait, how could you possibly be his real daughter?" Anissa replied calmly, her voice laced with superiority. "You dare question my father. I will tell him about your suspicions and everything you've done to me. We'll see who ends up disliked then." With that, she turned to leave. As expected, the maids, terrified, called after her, scrambling to apologize. They stammered excuses, claiming they had offended the young miss, and begged for forgiveness. Anissa's face instantly transformed into an angelic smile. "Just saying that is enough," she asked, feigning innocence. "What should be done then?" Anissa, inwardly triumphant, spoke vaguely. "Do you even need to ask? Isn't there a proper way to apologize? Should I just stand here and watch?" However much they loathed her and disagreed with her attitude, they had no choice but to kneel and apologize. Anissa's face bloomed like a flower as she accepted their apology. "Now, I'm going to tell Father a little something." The maids' faces paled to the color of banana leaves. This time, Anissa merely lectured them on the proper way to apologize, making no mention of forgiving these ungrateful wretches. She added cheerfully, "If you kneel like this every time you see me, perhaps I'll consider forgiving you." Of course, Anissa had no intention of tattling. Reporting such a trivial matter would make her seem troublesome. A casual threat and going about her own business was sufficient. But it was time for a change of scenery. She headed towards the kitchen, brimming with excitement. "Hello, everyone." It wasn't yet mealtime, and the mansion's cooks were busy preparing the food. The sous chef, seeing Anissa, inquired, "Miss, is there something you need in the kitchen?" Anissa was slightly surprised. She'd never met him before, yet the servant recognized her. Perhaps Duke Aubrey had mentioned her, or the sous chef had inquired about her. The novel had mentioned Duke Aubrey's fondness for ambitious individuals, a phrase that had been inexplicably popping into Anissa's mind lately. Pushing the thought aside for the moment, she replied, "May I borrow the kitchen?" The sous chef hesitated, but Anissa offered a bargain. She would teach him how to make inexpensive meat taste like prime cuts. This was information gleaned from her 3 years with the diplomatic corps at the peace conference, knowledge yet unknown within the empire. If she prepared dinner, Anissa reasoned, she could impress the Duke, making it easier to acquire the resources she needed for her revenge. Yet, a premonition of ill omen flickered within her. That evening, as Duke Shaquille was attending to his official duties, a knock came at the door. He bade the visitor enter, but he hadn't expected Anissa carrying something covered. The steward announced cheerfully, "Master, refreshments have arrived. Would you care for a break?" The Duke, engrossed in his work, looked up with a flicker of annoyance. But when he heard the word father, Duke Shaquille froze. Anissa, with an endearing look, invited him to share some refreshments. The Duke wasn't one to be easily swayed by food, but he suspected Anissa was here to complain again. That afternoon, he'd inadvertently witnessed the girl being bullied by the servants. Initially, he'd thought that if she were bullied to the point of tears, he would intervene. He hadn't expected her to put on a brave face and bring a bribe along with her complaint. The Duke waited with a certain grim pleasure, anticipating Anissa's request, so he could make those bothersome servants disappear. When the steward lifted the lid from the platter, even Duke Shaquille was taken aback. He stared down in surprise. It was beef stew and a beautifully decorated cake. He wondered why the chef had prepared dishes he'd never ordered before. Had he missed dinner, and this was a late serving? Anissa stood beside him, her gaze fixed on him, eagerly awaiting his reaction. Surprisingly, it was delicious. The beef was tender and flavorful, without a hint of gaminess. He surmised that Anissa must have requested the chef to prepare it with special care. The cake beside it was strawberry, and Anissa explained that she had asked for extra blueberries and other berries to be added. The Duke was slightly startled. The only person who knew of his fondness for berries was Rosanna. Even the chef was unaware. Could his wife have told the girl? Anissa continued to stand expectantly by his side. Knowing Rosanna, she wouldn't have done such a thing. It must be a coincidence. Though he was pleased, he maintained a facade of indifference, gesturing for the steward to refill his tea. The tea was poured. The Duke decided to use this opportunity to inquire about the medicine Anissa had given her mother the previous day. "My daughter is truly like me," he began, very polite. "You came to me because you have a favor to ask, correct?" Anissa smiled. "Is it that obvious?" "Actually, Father, I do have a request." The Duke beamed, assuming she would ask for the dismissal of the 2 servants. He considered it a reasonable request. Instead, Anissa, with an air of excitement, declared that she had discovered a great secret that could be commercialized. The Duke's train of thought derailed. His face was a mask of confusion. Dismissal? What business venture? He stared blankly for a few seconds. Then, he recovered himself. "Never mind," he said. "I was just thinking of certain individuals who deserve dismissal. But what is this business you speak of? I detest wasting time on frivolous matters." Anissa lifted her teacup and, getting straight to the point, asked, "Father, have you heard of mixed magic stones?" The Duke's interest was piqued. Anissa explained that it meant a single magic stone could contain 2 opposing magical forces. After listening, the Duke's expression shifted to one of astonishment. "Are you serious? One stone, one attribute. That's common knowledge. Even a 3-year-old knows that. Anissa remained calm, confidently asserting, if the formula for mixed attributes is discovered, I don't think commercializing it is a far-fetched idea. Though skeptical, the Duke indulged Anissa, asking her to write down the formula. Initially, he assumed she was simply prone to flights of fancy. To his surprise, what she produced was a concise explanation, far beyond her years. The preliminary theory was sound. If followed, it might actually work, though testing would be necessary. Upon hearing that the plan might be viable, Anissa was as happy as a lark. The Duke added, "But is this what you wanted to discuss?" During their conversation, the cake had quickly disappeared, though the Duke stubbornly maintained a pretense of still being able to eat more. At this point, Anissa hesitated. Duke Shakur, curious about what else she wanted, prompted her. "Considering your thoughtfulness," Anissa said demurely, "I have a favor to ask." Duke Shakur chuckled inwardly, assuming Anissa's elaborate preparations were a prelude to requesting the dismissal of the 2 maids who had insulted her. He eagerly awaited her request. Instead, Anissa, seemingly changing the subject, requested 20% of the profits from the mixed magic stone sales. The air thickened with unspoken tension as Anissa wondered if she had overstepped. Realizing his misjudgment, Duke Shakur suppressed his surprise and reassured her, "The profit distribution can be adjusted later. You are my only daughter, the lady of this house. It's not too much to ask. I should remind you not to forget that," he added. Anissa hesitated at his words. Shakur mused, "It's time to say it. My daughter is truly shy. Anyway, you don't need to worry about these things. You can tell me anything." Anissa replied, "Yes, thank you, Father. Then I'll be going. I apologize that the food wasn't to your liking." When asked if she was leaving, she answered, "Yes, I'll return after you've finished testing it." Shakur frowned. "Leaving just like that? Don't you have anything else to say to your father?" Anissa looked surprised. No, how could that be?" He pressed. "Really nothing. Think carefully. Is there truly nothing else you want to ask your father?" Anissa paused for a moment. Then, as if remembering something, she said, around this time yesterday." Shakur's expression softened slightly. She continued, "I took the liberty of sending Mother a drink. Right? The drink I brought Mother yesterday was made with peony." Shakur's voice was tinged with disappointment and frustration. "Peony, you say? Isn't that a weed?" Anissa replied, "Yes, although not many people know. It has the effect of alleviating Mother's symptoms. I've seen the doctor use it before. But peony can't be consumed regularly, as it can build resistance and reduce its effectiveness. So it should only be used when the pain is too severe." Shakur listened dumbfounded. Anissa thought to herself, the treatment hasn't been developed yet. It would be terrible if resistance develops. What if the medicine stops working? No. Looking at Shakur's slightly saddened face, she remembered, the Duchess will die anyway, and the proud Duke will eventually meet a melancholic end. 5 years from now, Rosanna Aubrey will die, and 2 years after that, Shakur Aubrey will also die. Don't be fooled by this peaceful facade. I can only maintain this for 6 to 7 years at most. I still have traces of the ancient runes. Before I died in my past life, the ancient runes hadn't spread throughout my body. As she turned to leave, she said, "Then I'll be going now. Have a pleasant day." Shakur, his expression gloomy, muttered, "Really leaving just like that?" Without saying anything in the end. Just then, the butler peeked in. He called him back. "Wait, what are you doing?" The butler replied, "I saw that these dishes weren't to your liking, so I was going to clear them away. I was thinking of having them as a snack." Shakur's face became a mask of despair. He ordered, "Leave them. I'm tired. Get out." The butler chuckled. "Really?" Then he turned and left the room. Lost in thought, Anissa mused, "It seems I need to prepare some tea. I try my best, but it seems the food wasn't good. Could it be that even the skills recognized by the mad scientist are useless now? Even such a picky eater enjoyed it, right? After all, Father has been eating the finest food since he was young." Suddenly, she remembered the Duke's son. The Duke Shakur Aubrey had an only son. He had chestnut hair, much like Shakur Aubrey himself, noble purple eyes, and a youthful face, around 13 years old. After the downfall of the Duke's family, this supporting character, after wandering as a knight for a time, would meet the green-eyed female protagonist. Anissa berated herself again, her mind twisting around information she'd never known before. Supporting character and female protagonist. What did that even mean? She'd only seen Enos at mealtimes. Could he not know who I am? She forced a smile and offered a greeting. After a cursory exchange, he asked, "Shall we go?" Then, with a pointed look, "You're the stand-in, aren't you?" At that, she paused. Then she smiled. And you must be Enos Aubrey. He gave a slight smile, his eyes holding the same haughty look as Duke Shakur, the same guarded, almost malicious curve to his lips. He offered a perfunctory farewell. I'm already exhausted, she thought, and he's making it worse. Suddenly, he sneered. Even changing your clothes can't hide your commonness. Bringing a girl home as a sister, but she's so ordinary, nothing special about her at all. She remained silent, then after a long moment, uttered a single word. Hey. He laughed. Isn't hey a bit short? Anissa replied, does it need to be long? That gave a pause. She turned, a smile playing on her lips. If you're done with your assessment, I'll be going. I'm busy and don't have time to play games with you. Enos seemed irritated. What did you just say? She replied. He speaks casually, so I'm simply reciprocating. Besides, I only need to please two people. Earning the Duke and Duchess's favor is enough. There's no need to cater to this child's whims. Even if the Duke loves his wife more than I imagined, he wouldn't send me away so easily for the sake of her health. This child's scolding is meaningless. There's no real danger. But if I were truly a child, I wouldn't be so sure. She spoke frankly to Enos. I don't need to flatter you either. Why should I grovel like an idiot? He shifted uncomfortably. Don't you understand the situation, idiot? Don't you know why you should flatter me? She retorted, who knows? Because you're the true son, the heir to this family. Enos choked on his words. At this stage in my life, I have more experience than most. Anissa's tone dripped with disdain. If you think I'll flatter you for that reason, you're sorely mistaken. I have no such intention. Revenge, though, I wonder how much power you actually wield. The rest, I hope you understand. You can't drive me away. If I disappear, the Duchess will surely faint from shock. You wouldn't want that, would you? My freedom. I will have my revenge, and then I will live as I please. Living without regrets until I die is my goal. I won't let a child like you get in my way. At this, she paused. Enos's face flushed with anger. Wrong, she thought. It seems he cares for the Duke and Duchess more deeply than I anticipated. The mere suggestion of her fainting made him this angry. Good. Just then, someone called Anissa's name. Both she and Enos looked up in surprise. What was that voice? It was the Duchess. Mother, Enos cried, glancing at Anissa with surprise. She beamed. Saved. I almost thought I was going to get hit. She embraced Rosanna tightly, calling her mother. Enos frowned. Show off, he muttered. Rosanna called softly, Enos, come here too. Will he? Anissa wondered. He must be more affectionate than I thought. To her surprise, a second later, he joined the hug. Good boy, Rosanna murmured. Anissa stared. Where did all that arrogance go? He leaned against Rosanna, a slight blush coloring his cheeks. Suddenly, she asked, but why was Enos holding Annette's neck? Were you two having a heart-to-heart? From his expression, Anissa guessed, this child is begging for my forgiveness. Should I forgive him? She smiled thoughtfully, then decided to lie. Yes, my brother and I were just greeting each other. He said there was dust on my hair and was probably trying to brush it off. Even Enos hadn't expected to touch her. Rosanna beamed. Really? You've become such a caring older brother. Anissa reminded him internally, be smart, listen to me, follow my lead. Aloud, she said, yes, I'm also happy to have such a kind brother. Enos tried to play along. Right, I saw some dust on my sister's hair. He quickly changed the subject. By the way, why is Mother out today? Are you feeling all right, Mother? Rosanna smiled. Yes, I'm in a good mood today. Watching her, Anissa thought, it seems the peony tea is really working. But Mother, please don't overexert yourself. Rosanna prepared to leave. All right, I'm going to tend to your father. Enos, remember to take good care of your sister. Okay. He readily agreed. Okay, Mother. Anissa waved goodbye as well. He said he'd show me around the estate. Rosanna waved back tenderly. They both maintained their smiles until she was out of sight. The moment she turned away, their expressions changed. Seeing her go, Enos quickly asked, where are you going? Anissa replied, back to my room. Didn't I say? I have a lot of work to do. No need for the tour of the estate. Enos was suddenly a loss for words. After a moment, he spoke. Do you think acting like this will actually make you family? Hearing this, Anissa looked up at him. Enos continued. Do you think that just because Mother treats you like a daughter, you actually are her daughter? She looked at him coldly. What was he talking about? He was the one who knew best that things wouldn't turn out that way. So he was afraid. Afraid of losing his position. Anissa smirked. Foolish, but cute. She said, no, I can say with certainty that I've never had such a delusion. Familial love. She had abandoned that dream the day she was betrayed by that mad scientist. She told him bluntly, I won't become family with you. Enos was momentarily stunned. What are you saying? Anissa emphasized, even if you begged me, I would never become your family. So you don't have to worry about that. Then she gave him a smile that made him uncomfortable. She thought, originally, I only had 7 years left to live. Family. How laughable. I just want to completely use this family as a means of revenge. Acting in front of mother, playing dumb like just now, is enough. She told him, acting in front of mother, playing dumb like just now, is enough, brother. Hearing that address, Enos was truly speechless. Anissa walked back to her room, her heart heavy. Family. If I truly felt that way, I wouldn't stand idly by knowing people in this estate will die. This so-called family is just an illusion. No matter how hard you try, how much you yearn for love, if the same blood doesn't flow, it all ends in nothingness. Even if you are blood-related, you can still be abandoned. It shows that family is unreliable from the start. The thought of every yearning for love made her nauseous. Food had been set on the table. Just as she was about to eat, Shakur called out, Enos Aubrey, your sister has only been back a short while, and you still don't know how to use cutlery. I believe I've said, don't make noise with your fork. Enos blushed. I'm sorry. Anissa thought, of course. I learned etiquette among nobles. I suffered a lot in the orphanage and with that mad scientist, but this is too inconvenient. Then Shakur spoke again. And I heard you even made your mother hug you. Knowing full well your mother's health is poor, how could you be so inconsiderate? He apologized again. Anissa thought to herself, having a madman for a family is so troublesome. The Duke revolves around the Duchess, and Enos, at his age, should be cherished, but he grew up in solitude. So isn't he innocent? Why is he so sensitive? It seems he lacks confidence in himself. He's never been cared for or loved. Perhaps it's not that they don't love him. Yes, that's love. Even when out of control, they won't strike their own child, preferring to suffer themselves. That's arrogance, right? It was clear back then. Her eyes widened. As expected, something felt strange in my memories, almost muddled. A kilogram of vivid, raw meat suddenly appeared. This phenomenon has occurred more than once. These are clearly memories from a life other than Anissa's. Suddenly, Shakur called her Annette. She turned around. Yes, father. He asked, what were you just thinking about? She immediately put on a smile. Nothing. I'm just a little full. He looked at her in surprise, and Enos mirrored his expression. Shakur asked again, you said you're full. After eating so little, a few vegetables and 2 or 3 slices of meat. She laughed. What's with that reaction? She replied, well, if I can't eat that much, should I force myself to eat more? Shakur sighed. Right? So they only feed you this much at the orphanage. What if your body gets weak? She answered, because I have to go to classes and finish the work assigned for the day. If I'm weak, I can't do it. There's no such thing as a free lunch in this world. That statement made them both freeze. The Shangri-La orphanage was a place of clear rewards and punishments. Do well, and you're rewarded. Do poorly, and you starve. So Annette had long forgotten what it felt like to be full. She said, I'm finished eating. May I be excused? She wondered if this family still possessed such naivete. Shakur said, all right, a tutor will come in a week, and then you'll start school. She replied with a small smile, yes, father. Suddenly, he asked, why aren't you asking anything? Annette was taken aback. He continued, aren't you curious about what subjects you'll be learning, who recommended the tutor, or when you'll start school? Why don't you even know the most basic way to ask questions? She hesitated. Would anything change if I were curious? He was stunned. What? Of course not. Hearing this, she smiled. Then why should I be curious about those things? Nothing will change anyway. Shakur, utterly surprised by this little girl, had to wave his hand dismissively. I understand. You may leave. Before leaving, Annette asked, may I visit the capital? He repeated, visit the capital. She confirmed, yes. This is actually my first time out. It was true in her past life, and it was true in this one. She rarely got to go out. A little embarrassed, she added, if it's too much trouble, forget it. Suddenly, Shakur exclaimed, who said you can't go? She hadn't expected him to agree. Thank you, she said. He mentioned he had business today. Annette could only smile and say, oh, I see. Shakur added, tomorrow should be fine. I mean, tomorrow I could take you out. The atmosphere between them suddenly became a little awkward. Shakur, mustering his courage, repeated, father can take you out tomorrow. She looked at him quizzically. Had the old man gone mad? Annette pondered. Was he expecting her to say something specific? He kept repeating himself until she called him father. Forcing herself, she said, I know you're busy, but could you take me to the capital? Shakur smiled silently, satisfied, then feigned reluctance. Although it's a bit of a hassle, I suppose I have no choice. Annette was experiencing culture shock. While there were plenty of dishonest people in the world, wasn't this a bit much? He kept muttering, if it's something my daughter asks, then there's nothing I can do. Suddenly, Annette felt a murderous aura behind her. Turning around, she saw Enos sulking. She gave him an awkward smile. The situation was truly awkward. Though she immediately left, trouble came looking for her. Enos angrily rebuked her. You're clearly a fake, yet you get so much attention from Father. Do you really want to become a part of our family? Father has never taken me to the capital. Hadn't Rosanna suggested they go together from the start? It was Duke Aubrey who'd misunderstood. Anissa had merely intended to appease him slightly. She could clarify her stance, but what excuse could she offer beyond that? If it had to be done, better now than later. I don't want to argue about such trivial matters, Anissa said. Duke Aubrey is simply protective of Enos in his own way. That's undeniable. She continued, I have an appointment tomorrow, and I'm quite busy these next 2 days. I'll prove to you that Father loves me more, Enos protested. What do you mean by that? Anissa sighed. If I can prove it, will you stop bothering me, little brother? Where does Father go every day? He can't express his feelings directly, so when does his true heart show? She knew best. Enos replied, there's a lake in the estate gardens. But what about it? He takes a walk there every day. That certainly fit the codename Green, she thought. Turning back to Enos, she said, all right, then let's meet by that lake after breakfast. He looked at her, puzzled. What are you planning? You're not trying to trick me again, are you? He received no answer. After a moment, she turned back with a playful tone. This is so my dear brother won't be jealous of me anymore. It's a bit of a bother, but for a peaceful future, it's a necessary ordeal. So, see you then, little brother. With that, she left. All right, I'll think about this troublesome matter tomorrow. First, I need to sort out the memories that suddenly surfaced. The novel's protagonist, and Annette knew Duke Aubrey's past and future. It must be because she read the newspaper left by that mad scientist before she was reborn. But was even Duke Aubrey's past written there? However, the future after his death was clearly distorted. But some facts, like him being the third son, having to endure many hardships since childhood, or consequently not being able to trust others easily, even the fact that he loved Enos Aubrey deeply. How could she be so certain? Even if she read the newspaper very carefully, she couldn't possibly know things that were never written there. How did she know he would injure himself to prevent Enos from getting hurt? Where did she get this information? In the end, she couldn't come up with any clues. It was as if someone had explained the past to her. Suddenly, she looked up, and a strange light appeared before her eyes. What is this light? She muttered, watching in alarm as it fell through the patterned ceiling. What is this thing? Finally, no matter what I have to, but suddenly Anissa cried out. She looked around in a daze. Where is this? She gasped. She clearly felt her soul being sucked away just now. This space was eerily white. What was it? Suddenly startled, she turned her head. She looked at the dark figure before her with confusion. Hello, it said. The voice made her uncomfortable, like a buzzing microphone. A microphone? What's that? Besides, was I speaking too loudly? The figure asked. Anissa was dumbfounded. What are you talking about? An ant speaks louder than you. It's hard to adjust, it said. How about now? It's all right, she replied. What's going on? We finally meet, it said. She was still wondering who it was. It chuckled. Don't be so wary. I'm the administrator here. This is that place. But what place? As if answering her unspoken question, the dark figure replied, the storage room. Even its mouth was pitch black. She couldn't even tell if the name was actually being spoken. The shadow explained, this is a room that only you can enter in this world. Well, Anissa said, I don't understand what you mean by storage room, but you keep talking in riddles. Isn't there anything here? She asked. How can there be nothing? Look carefully. Everything is here. At that moment, a bookshelf appeared before Anissa, and the figure spoke. This is the bookshelf that holds the truth of the world. Would you like to try reading it? The shadowy figure asked. Anissa stared, bewildered. What is that? How can I read them if every book is the same? Finally, she picked up a book. These books are different from the others. The covers and backs are all unique. The shadowy figure urged her, try reading it. It'll be interesting. Anissa hesitated for a moment. So many surprising things have already happened that I don't think I can be surprised anymore. She began to read. August 8th, 2019. After being swindled out of all her possessions, she was hit by a bus while crossing the street at XX. How awful, she murmured, frowning. What date is this? X month, X day, triple X year, imperial calendar. Anissa was at a loss for words. Suddenly, the shadowy figure let out a loud laugh. You can't understand these ancient characters, probably because you haven't gained permission yet. The interesting part starts now. She stared at him blankly. Are you upside down? Look ahead, over there, he said. She followed his gaze, her eyes widening. The pages of the book were turning on their own. The pages filled with text, leaving Anissa speechless. This is February 17th, 2016. Today's chapter is the most exciting. Duke Aubrey, Hikaru is so handsome. He injured his own foot to save his son. Do parents like that only exist in novels? Will Duke Aubrey not appear again? I'm so sad. My family is like my enemy. Every day, they only think about how to steal my money. Her hand trembled as she read. Anissa turned the page. So far, what I've read is the book owner's afterword after reading the novel Blue Snow. A normal review wouldn't be anything special, but Duke Aubrey's name appears in this one. Anissa swallowed, a sense of unease settling over her. What's a lost adopted daughter? This post makes no sense. Who's the heroine? Who's the key figure? What's going on? Just then, a jolt of electricity shot through her, startling her so badly she dropped the book. The shadowy figure said she had read too much, that she couldn't handle this much information yet. Anissa looked up at him and asked, "What is this?" The shadowy figure offered a simple explanation. This is her life. More accurately, a record of some of the most intense moments of her life. Anissa grew more confused. But I don't remember any of this. The figure readily agreed. Of course not. This is a past life. Seeing past lives is normally forbidden, but she's the first special case, having lived many lives. The shadowy figure gestured towards the books before Anissa. Simply put, the number of her past lives is all recorded here. Even if she doesn't remember, her soul does. Anissa blinked, murmuring, so it's like memories. The figure continued. In fact, everyone's existence is in the storage room, but access is restricted. For example, those who have experienced death, those who possess the key. Anissa asked, surprised, "What key?" As Anissa's surprise deepened, the shadowy figure answered, "It's the forbidden curse on her wrist." He pointed out, making her even more wary. The figure tapped her nose lightly. "Don't look so scared. I'm on her side." Just then, the space began to distort. The shadowy figure spoke quickly. "Oh, it seems time's up. I'll have to tell her the rest next time. We'll be together for a long time, so let's get along, partner." As soon as he finished speaking, the space cracked beneath her feet. Anissa plummeted through the air, the shadowy figure's voice echoing after her. That was a short meeting. He waved goodbye cheerfully. "See you next time." Barely a second later, Anissa's eyes fluttered open. She was lying in bed. She sat up abruptly and looked around. Finally, she frowned and sighed. This is bad. The next morning, the servants gathered to present Anissa with clothes. "Miss, how about this one?" Looking at the frilly pink dress before her, Anissa remained silent, unable to bring herself to comment. Taking a deep breath, she forced a smile. "Yes, it's lovely." Mary and Cordelia began bickering. "The blue of this one is softer. It looks good. But miss, I think this one is prettier." Annette awkwardly mediated. Yes, they're both beautiful. But inwardly, she wondered, hadn't they said there were no clothes? After a moment's thought, Annette suggested, "Let's start trying them on from this side." Both maids immediately replied, "Yes." Mississippi Annette mused, "Mary is like this, but I think Cordelia is quite a calm person." "Are they really twins?" With the maid's help, Annette slipped into a lovely green dress. Mary couldn't help but squeal, "Oh my goodness, it really suits Mississippi. It truly complements Mrs. Hair Color. It's 100% perfect." Cordelia also had to admit, indeed, it's the same color as Master's hair. It complements similar colors well. Annette told herself that receiving such praise wasn't for nothing. It was the Duke's effort in finding a replacement. Feigning shyness, she asked, "Really, do I look like father?" Mary immediately affirmed, of course. The maids were overjoyed that such a lovely young miss had returned safely. The statement pricked Annette's conscience slightly. Smiling at the twins, she said, "Thank you anyway." "Mary, Cordelia," she addressed them, waving her hand. "I'll be back soon." The two maids replied in unison, "Yes, Mississippi." And so, Annette slowly walked along the mansion's corridor, preparing to go out. As she walked, she recalled the events of yesterday. Before she could process the information, she had fainted, waking up the next morning having already agreed to go out with Duke Aubrey. Annette's mind kept returning to yesterday's space. Who was the person called the key? Is this the place mentioned in the novel Blue Snow? If that shadow was telling the truth, this world is the novel I read in my past life. Her figure moved swiftly through the corridor. Annette continued to ponder. Then, is the person called the key the original daughter? The heroine? Before I was reborn, I remember seeing a newspaper article saying that Duke Aubrey adopted a daughter. She shook her head fearfully. I didn't intend to steal anyone's place. Just then, a voice grumbled from behind her, so slow, making me wait again. Annette squinted, recognizing her father. The Duke praised her without reservation. You look beautiful today. Clothes make the man, as they say. Like a phoenix rising from the mountains. Annette smiled. Thank you. It's all thanks to father. But the Duke became taciturn. Annette froze, wondering, why isn't he saying anything? She noticed the Duke's mood instantly deflate. Annette paused. Could it be he wants to hear that phrase? She sighed inwardly. Duke Aubrey is more childish than I thought. Then the possibility of what I'm thinking is high. But please don't be like this. I still have to call him father. The Duke looked at his daughter seriously. Annette put on an adoring smile and said, You seem especially handsome today. The Duke immediately preened, replying, I always am. Annette thought wryly, I guessed right. Their carriage began to move. Annette watched with curiosity as the Duke, opposite her, worked with a pen in hand. If you're busy enough to work in the carriage, you don't have to force yourself to come with me. Seeing how demanding he is towards me, Duke Aubrey probably remembers his daughter. But either way, I'm just a fake. If I'm too much trouble, I might be kicked out. Suddenly, the Duke asked her, Where do you want to go? Annette mumbled to herself, I just want to stroll around and enjoy my freedom. But outwardly, she said simply, I want to go to a clothing store or a jewelry store or maybe a snack shop. The Duke frowned at her and asked again, Is that truly where you want to go? Annette replied, Yes, father. She told herself, It doesn't matter where we go. Children usually like those places. But suddenly, she realized something. Things aren't as peaceful as I expected. I've discovered that this world runs on money and power. And so, Annette immediately cried out in alarm, Father. Blushing, Annette explained, I only said I liked the pink dress, not that I wanted to go to the toy store. Finally, Duke Aubrey gently stroked Annette's green hair and said, My only daughter is so timid. He smiled at her. Money is meant to be spent like this. Seeing his smile, however, Annette was terrified. From her experience serving the mad scientist, this expression clearly indicated displeasure, extreme displeasure. Had she done something to anger him? She was merely imitating the way his daughter would act spoiled when she wanted sweets. In truth, the Duke was angry because he felt it outrageous that his daughter lacked treats and clothes. He decided their next stop would be the jewelry store. Annette cried out in a panic, Father! She felt deeply embarrassed. This wasn't how things were supposed to go at all. She gathered her courage. That's not what I meant. I just wanted to stroll through the capital with you and see the sights, since it's my first time here. As she spoke, she clutched the corner of the Duke's coat. After a moment of silence, he finally agreed. Very well, since it's my daughter's request, I suppose I can't refuse. Annette fretted internally. That's not how I asked at all. But she couldn't interrupt him now. She immediately turned and hurried away. Yes, let's get back in the carriage. She wanted to change locations before he changed his mind. So the two of them reboarded the carriage to go elsewhere. Once inside, Annette hesitantly asked, Father, is it possible to return the things we bought today? The Duke's expression immediately soured. You want me, a Duke, to return items I just purchased? How embarrassing. Annette quickly explained, if that's not possible, we could give them to people around us or donate them. The more she spoke, the more displeased the Duke became. Annette had truly cornered herself this time. Well, she fidgeted, unsure whether to reveal the truth. After considering, Annette said, Because I feel it's such a waste, Father. I might not be here in 5 years, so I don't want to buy so many things I won't use. Duke Aubrey simply dismissed her concerns. You can take it all with you. His words stunned Annette. Then she replied with a wry smile, How could I possibly take everything? The clothes won't even fit by then. The Duke responded forcefully, then throw them away. Annette sighed inwardly. There's no reasoning with him. After a while, the Duke stood up to exit the carriage. We've arrived. Let's go. Annette obediently replied, Yes. Duke Aubrey carefully stepped out of the carriage first, then turned and extended his hand. Here, take my hand and step down. Annette gently took the Duke's hand and said, Yes, Father, thinking to herself, just like when we got in. The Duke is more of a gentleman than I thought. Today, Duke Aubrey silently watched his daughter, who always treated him with the politeness of a stranger, unsure of what to say. As they walked, Annette noticed the Duke slowing his pace. Those long legs are always walking ahead of me, but now it seems our steps are finally in sync. Annette blinked and looked at the Duke. These small gestures warmed her heart a little. Annette decided to be more proactive and was about to take the Duke's hand when a sudden commotion nearby caught their attention. They could hear someone scolding, What trouble are you causing now? Duke Aubrey thought worriedly, This area is full of commoners, so it's a bit chaotic. Annette was suddenly stunned by the sight before her. A commoner was carefully pushing an iron cage, berating the transport workers. This is a rare creature I paid a high price for. But Annette knew very well this was undeniable proof that the mad scientist was still alive. Her silence puzzled the Duke, so he called out Annette. Annette instantly recognized the young creature in the iron cage. It was an experimental subject, bred for inflicting harm and for combat. Though Duke Aubrey called out, his daughter didn't respond. He noticed Annette was completely captivated by an animal across the street. The merchant's chastising voice still echoed. I heard it was a rare creature, so I bought it. Annette recognized it instantly. It was clearly a chimera, an experimental subject bred by mad scientists for inflicting harm and for combat. A creature born from deceiving the gods and disregarding life itself. Yet, initially many saw them as pitiful beings. Later, due to their lack of intelligence and their tendency to simply follow their masters, they became increasingly common. She clenched her fists, watching the groaning beast in its iron cage. If it hadn't yet given up its sanity, if it was still trying to resist, then it seemed this one, too, was a failure. Beside her, Duke Aubrey saw the entire shift in Annette's expression. Then he glanced silently at the beast. The Duke spoke, his voice seeming to startle Annette. Have I gone mad, staring like this? Unexpectedly, the Duke suggested, do you want it? If you like it, I can buy it for you. Slightly surprised, Annette murmured, by what? You've already bought out the entire store. She forced a smile. Father, you've already bought me so much today. The Duke continued, but you looked. Annette quickly interrupted. It's because this is my first time in the capital, able to walk freely on the streets, and the first time someone's held my hand. The Duke was persuaded by her words. Inwardly, she thought, as for shopping and commoners, let's not mention those things again. So, Annette feigned delight. It's all thanks to you, Father. Let's go back now. She thought miserably, I just wanted to have a normal stroll through the streets. The Duke still hesitated, holding his daughter's hand. He replied, you're easily satisfied then. If you enjoy holding hands this much, I suppose I'll just have to hold your hand all the way back. Ironically, it was Annette who had suggested holding hands, yet she'd been grumbling about how difficult it was. As they walked, the Duke said, you should also learn to appear more graceful. Even after leaving, Annette's thoughts lingered on the beast. The chimera's forlorn expression surfaced in her mind. Is it too much to say that its abandoned appearance reminds me of how I used to be? A while later, in a lakeside garden of the Duke's mansion, the Duke's son had been waiting there for some time. Enos thought, she told me to come, so I did. She said it would prove Father loves me. Enos thought dejectedly, this is nonsense. Father always wears a stern expression with me. This time, he even took that impostor to the capital for shopping. What does that impostor, who monopolizes Father's affection, understand? She dares to impersonate my sister, who had the same beautiful purple eyes as me. Even Mother, in her illness, is fooled by her. Enos would never forget that child, the sister he had held in his arms at her birth. Perhaps she would return, but strangely, this time, the thought of his real sister's return made Enos feel uneasy. Just then, Enos heard someone call his name. There you are. Annette emerged from behind a large bush. Enos crossed his arms, his voice laced with anger. I thought you were doing something unnecessary, so I was about to head back. Annette asked directly, don't you want to know if Father loves you? He immediately affirmed, Father doesn't love me. His words made Annette uncomfortable. It seems the time has come. She slowly approached him. Brother, do you know the easiest way to see someone's true feelings? Enos asked curiously, what is it? Annette sighed and replied, only in times of danger can a person not suppress their true emotions. Then she smiled at him. While Enos still wore a bewildered expression, Annette grabbed his collar, tugging him forward. Drop dead, she said coldly, then explained her scheme. What happens next is an accident, one that occurs while I'm forcing you to play with me. Enos cried out in alarm. Hey, what are you doing? Unfazed, Annette emphasized, this is absolutely not your fault. Enos began to struggle. Stop joking around. Annette simply smiled, explaining, I bet Father will call your name first and save you. With those words, Annette decisively pulled Enos into the lake. Just before they plunged into the water, her voice rang out, if I win. A triumphant expression on her face, she finished, then stop bothering me. Okay. A scream echoed before being swallowed by the water. As she sank, she thought it's so dark, deeper and wider than I imagined, and cold. It's not like it's shameful that Enos can't swim. On the surface of the lake, the moment they heard Enos's panicked cries, Duke Aubrey and the servants appeared. "What's so scary you can't even speak?" Enos, completely unable to compose himself, thrashed wildly in the water. Only Annette allowed herself to sink deeper and deeper. "The scariest thing isn't this." Enos was immediately pulled from the water, the Duke frantic with worry. "Are you all right? Are you hurt?" "No, we need to call a doctor immediately." "Call a doctor." Enos, drenched to the bone, realized something. "So father does care about me." Duke Aubrey's expression was more worried than ever. Enos, trembling, called out, "Father." The Duke angrily questioned Enos. "Why? What were you doing? Did a child like you, who's afraid of water, jump into the lake trying to die? What happened?" Enos stammered, "You already know." The Duke approached and silently stroked his son's head. "You think I didn't know about that? The doctor will be here soon. Lie down here for now." Enos thought, "I lost. I've never seen father make that kind of face." Then the Duke asked, going back to what happened just now, "Why did you fall into the water?" Thanks to his question, Enos remembered the accident where he fell in while playing with Annette. When they looked back at the lake, Annette was nowhere to be seen. Silence fell. The Duke's expression darkened further. He cursed, "Damn it," and jumped into the water. At the bottom of the lake, Annette remained motionless, continuing to sink. So cold. If Aubrey came, then Enos must have been saved already, but they seem to have run past without seeing me. They obviously just want to get rid of the trouble quickly. What's wrong with me? I didn't realize my swimming skills were this bad. Annette thought wildly. I won the bet, but how could I have known Enos couldn't swim? There wasn't anything in the news about Enos not being able to swim. Even though these are my memories, the amount of information stored is surprisingly large. I'm almost used to it, but if I die like this, there won't be any tragedy or revenge. Maybe it'll be more peaceful. Just as she was about to close her eyes and give up, Duke Aubrey grabbed her. When she reached the shore, Annette couldn't help but feel shocked. I was saved, but the Duke and Enos's expressions are even worse than mine. Annette forced herself to apologize pathetically. "I'm sorry, father. I accidentally, while playing with Enos." She thought, wasn't I too much for someone who can't swim? What's with Enos's expression? Looking at Enos's pained expression, Annette wanted to tell him that the decision was made after carefully calculating a safe distance. Looking at the two drenched and dejected children, the Duke couldn't bring himself to scold them further. "I'll talk to you two later. Let the doctor examine you, and then go back to your rooms and take a hot bath." Annette and Enos obediently replied, "Yes, father." The matter seemed to be settled, but even as Annette changed her clothes and sat on her bed, she still felt resentful, demanding 5 days. Annette protested, "I'm not injured. Why do I have to stay in my room for 5 days?" The servants answered in unison, "Of course you must, Mississippi. You almost suffered a terrible accident." Annette sighed. "All right, it seems I underestimated the gravity of being the Empire's only princess." Resigned, she conceded, "Fine, I'll listen to you all." Everything else was tolerable, but why did she have to share a room with this child? Annette looked at Enos with a perplexed expression. How could his mindset have become like this? Regardless, she couldn't change the decision. Oh well, she should get used to it soon enough. She could think of it as a period of rest. That's what she thought, but she miscalculated. For days later, Annette still hadn't adjusted. "They haven't let me leave for 3 days, and I'm even being watched by the Duke. Honestly, this treatment is like I'm an emperor under house arrest. Food, clothing, shelter, even toys and exercise were all arranged, all under the guise of restoring her health, keeping her confined to her room." Annette thought with a throbbing headache, I didn't expect things to turn out like this. How did it become even more troublesome than before? Everything else was manageable, but the most unbearable thing was... Annette cautiously asked Enos, "Why are you looking at me like that?" Enos hesitantly denied it. "I'm not looking at you on purpose." Annette felt like crying. The most distressing part was the stares of Shaquille Aubrey and Enos Aubrey. They even stared while she ate, making it hard to swallow. She might as well not eat at all. Annette recalled with anguish when the doctor said she was gradually recovering. The Duke seemed to ignore his opinion. "If this continues, I'll get bed sores on my backside." "It seems you're much better," the Duke had said. "I'm going to attend to some work and we'll be back soon. Stay in your room, understand?" Inwardly, Annette pleaded, "Please don't come back." After the Duke left, Annette could finally relax, at least a little. At least she could finally unwind. Just then, Enos called out to her, "Hey, what are you thinking about? After all, I didn't agree to such a dangerous bet." She thought to herself, Enos is unhappy about this. That's why he keeps staring at me. Annette tried to explain, "I'm sorry, but but I calculated beforehand that you wouldn't die. Unexpectedly, Enos shouted angrily, but you almost drowned. This reaction was beyond her expectations. Annette honestly admitted her mistake. That was indeed my fault. Enos continued to scold her. You clearly can't swim. What were you thinking? She muttered to herself. What else could I be thinking? Of course, I was thinking about getting rid of you. Enos asked, his voice choked with sobs. Was it because... With a look of self-blame and worry, Enos asked, because of that incident, you almost lost your life. Seeing Enos cry, Annette was stunned. She felt like she was lost in space, unsure of what was happening. As his tears continued to fall, Annette quickly exclaimed, Hey, are you crying? He wiped his tears and yelled angrily, Who's crying? Annette thought, who else could it be but you, Enos, Aubrey? Then she reiterated the terms of their bet. I've already confirmed that Father loves you. Enos nodded in agreement. Yes, that's right. She continued, Isn't that enough? Enos replied, But you also saw how Father jumped into the water to save you. Annette scratched her cheek and said simply, That's true. After all, someone can't just suddenly die in the Duke's backyard. Enos interrupted her irritably. That's not the reason. She clenched her fists and asked directly, The point is, that was the first time you saw Father run so desperately. It was because Father cherishes you that he did that. Annette looked at him earnestly. I apologize for calling you a fake before. That wasn't true. Suddenly, Enos jumped off the bed and ran towards her. You don't need to apologize. I made my decision. This is special permission. I acknowledge you as my sister. Annette immediately refused. No need. Just as we agreed, leave me alone from now on. Enos said haughtily, You should feel honored. Having such an excellent older brother isn't easy. He looked at Annette with affection in his eyes as he spoke, but Annette didn't believe him at all. No, not at all. What's with this brother thing? It feels so weird. It's like when the Count says, I'm a wonderful father. Resigned, she replied, Whatever you say. A few days later, a grand banquet was held at the Count's estate. Lady Rosanna kept asking them, Annette and Enos, I heard you both fell into the water while playing and caught colds. Are you feeling better now? Annette smiled and replied, I'm fine, Mother. Enos also obediently answered, I'm much better, Mother. Relieved, Lady Rosanna said, That's good. Finally, the whole family can dine together. Annette thought happily to herself, Yes, it's been a while since we've eaten together. The salad and stew are especially delicious. She ate with relish, then thought, But I'm full. I can't eat any more. A moment later, she put down her spoon, still with a considerable amount of food left on her plate. Lady Rosanna immediately noticed and asked, Annette, oh dear, are you finished already? Are you sure you're all right after falling into the water? Is it because the food doesn't suit your taste that you're eating so little? Annette quickly shook her head and answered honestly, No, Mother. The food is delicious, but eating too much makes me tired and sluggish. At the orphanage, if there were too many people and not enough food, everyone would be troubled. Her slip of the tongue made the Count's family feel very sad. Annette silently scolded herself. I shouldn't have said that. She immediately changed the subject, but now I'm home with my parents. Seeing Annette continue to eat, Lady Rosanna said, You don't have to force yourself. Annette nodded and said, Yes, Mother. Of course, it's because the food is truly delicious, Mother. The price of this was a stomachache. I'm so full. I feel like I've eaten 1.5 times my usual amount. Clutching her stomach, she considered her next move. Actually, I was planning to go out today. I'm still really worried about that chimera. The image of the chimera's last mournful cry kept flashing through her mind. Lying in bed, Annette thought, if possible, I'll just go by myself without the Duke. There's no point in thinking about it here. I'll just go. With that, Annette sat up and called for the servants. Mary and Cordelia, could you two come here for a moment? The twin sisters arrived quickly. Yes, Mississippi. What do you need? Annette said, I'd like to go out now. Is that all right? Mary asked now, where would you like to go? Annette answered vaguely, I want to go to the capital. Mary bowed respectfully and replied, Then we'll prepare immediately. Annette was a little surprised. That easy? I thought I couldn't go out without Duke Aubrey's permission. And so, Annette quickly boarded the carriage and set off. Before long, she was on the same road. This carriage is fast. Before entering the shop, she said to Mary, I have some business in this shop. Could you wait for me for a moment? Mary said hesitantly, But we need to accompany you. Annette persuaded the maid, It's all right. I'll really only be in there for a moment, and you can see inside from here, right? Mary had no choice but to obey. Then please come back immediately after you're finished, Mississippi. So Annette entered the shop alone. Her first impression was, this place is uncomfortable. The animals here aren't being well cared for. She seemed to understand why Mary and Cordelia were worried. The twin sisters watched their mistress intently from outside. Seeing a customer enter, the merchant stepped forward and said, "Welcome, honored guest. Are you looking for something in particular?" Annette looked around and immediately spotted her target. Found it. Pointing to the cage containing the chimera, she said, "I want that one." The merchant immediately flattered her in an ingratiating tone. As expected of a noble young lady, you have a discerning eye. This is a rare animal that just arrived. Although it's still being tamed, it's perfect for a noble young lady like yourself to train. The young chimera lay quietly in its cage, devoid of the vigor Annette had witnessed just days prior. "It doesn't look well," Annette commented bluntly. "It looks like it's about to die." The merchant quickly countered, "Not all, miss. It's just that it recently woke up." Absurd, she thought. Using this as leverage, Annette pressed him, "But it is in bad shape. How much do you want for it?" The merchant hesitated before replying. Since it's a rare breed, about 50 billion euro. Annette, thinking she'd misheard, asked 50 what? Indignation flared. 50 billion is enough to support a family of 4. And this shabby shop dares to ask that price. 50 billion for a place that violates basic sanitation laws. A sharp, angry smile touched Annette's lips. "Do you even have a permit?" she challenged. "You need a permit to import rare animals. You can't just sell them like this. Show me your certification." The merchant, flustered, stammered, What?" Annette feigned surprise. "Is it illegal then? What's the reward for reporting this to the guards?" Hastily, the merchant lowered his price. "Of course not, miss." "All right, 30 billion will do." Annette covered her face with a worried hand. "It looks quite ill. The medical bills will likely be substantial. My allowance isn't much. How about 300 million euro? The merchant winced, struggling to contain his frustration. "Miss, I won't make any profit at that price." She shrugged. "Is that so? That's too bad. Well, I understand. I'll go and gather 3 billion euro then." He immediately perked up. "Really?" Annette smiled. "After I report you to the guards and collect the reward, we can talk." The merchant cried out in alarm. No need for that. 10. No, 300 million euro is fine." Satisfied, she turned to leave. "Then I'll be back in a week." The merchant, bewildered, asked, "You're not taking it now?" Annette beamed. "If I bring home a sick animal and anger my father, and he destroys your shop, could you handle that?" Her thoughts raced. "Of course, I won't tell Duke Aubrey, but he wouldn't get involved in something like this anyway. It would be unreasonable if he did. The truth is, I don't have the money right now. Selling clothes or jewelry that aren't mine feels like going into debt. Asking the Duke for an allowance is a bit embarrassing too. So, I'll see you in a week. You must ensure it's in good health by then, understand?" Annette reminded the merchant with a smile, determined to raise the funds within the week. She then looked at the pitiful beast in the cage. "Good morning, chimera," she mused. "They're incredibly intelligent creatures, even capable of being used as weapons by humans. If this chimera obeys me, it will be a good ally in the mansion under the night sky." Cordelia relayed all of this to Shaquille, who acknowledged the report. He was a little surprised that Annette had gone out after dinner, and it turned out she had gone to see an animal. "If she wants something, she can tell me," Shaquille said. Cordelia speculated that perhaps Miss Annette was overthinking things, as she often observed him. Shaquille agreed. "She's a child who might run off at any moment, so take good care of her. That's why I entrusted her to you, Greenwind," Shaquille instructed Cordelia, who immediately obeyed his command. She then quickly excused herself. In truth, the Greenwind were elite knights, the most loyal to the Shaquille family, capable of subduing about 20 ordinary knights instantly. Dispatching Mary and Cordelia, 2 of the most skilled among them, seemed like overkill. But Shaquille hadn't expected a child who wouldn't even dare to say what she wanted. However, he was looking forward to the child bringing him the food prepared by the chef as a bribe. Just then, a voice came from outside. "Sir, may I come in?" As the door opened, Shaquille's hair was disheveled. He reminded Shadow, "I believe I told you to mind your manners in the estate." She didn't know why he had called her in. Shaquille suddenly complimented the recent improvement in the food, especially the meat dishes. Cordelia responded shyly, "It's all thanks to you, sir. You didn't call me here just to praise the new dishes, did you?" Shaquille got to the point. "You know my daughter has returned, right? That child might come to you for help like last time." Cordelia thought to herself, wondering when Shaquille would finally ask the question she longed to ask, whether his daughter was lovely. Instead, he simply said, I don't know, but she'll come eventually. Until then, don't let her make too much food. Cordelia's face was a mask of confusion. Let her make what? I was sleeping at the time. Shaquille was equally surprised. Wasn't it the sous chef who made it with that technique? Cordelia immediately denied it. No, what are you talking about? Wasn't it the young lady herself who made it? These words were a bolt from the blue for Shaquille. Cordelia explained, the meat has become more tender and the flavor richer. Isn't that all thanks to the recipe the young lady told me? Did you think I made it? Cordelia asked sarcastically. You didn't say these things in front of the young lady, did you? Cordelia's expression immediately darkened. I'm telling you to leave. Do you want to be fired? Shaquille retorted nonchalantly. If you fire me, see how many other chefs can satisfy your picky palate. But he was shocked. It was that strange food Annette had brought. Shaquille recalled his own words. Although I don't particularly like it, since it was made for me, I couldn't refuse. It was just average. The mere memory made his head ache. In her room, Annette contemplated what she could sell. Looking at the luxurious items around her, she thought, opening the underground passage is a bit strange, so I'll forget about that. There wasn't much she could sell. All that remained was her silky blue hair. Lately, Annette had been washing her hair with soap and had noticed it becoming softer and smoother, its texture improving. Besides, there were plenty of people who collected hair for wigs or various medical procedures, and this shade of blue was quite rare. A knock came at the door. Assuming it was Mary or Cordelia, Annette called for them to enter. She was a little surprised to see Shaquille. He cleared his throat and asked, what are you doing? Then he said, I came to tell you I'll be going north soon, leaving in 2 days. Shaquille hesitated slightly, realizing that was a long time to say. This was the capital. Traveling north on horseback would take at least 10 days. He explained that he could teleport using magic, so it wouldn't take long. Annette, curious, asked what that meant. Shaquille explained, there's a magic circle connecting my brother and me. Annette didn't pry further, simply saying, I'll get ready. Shaquille continued, there's a boy there, 2 years older than you, my brother's son. Of course, Annette knew this was the true male protagonist of this world. He was the only son of the Oliggo family, kidnapped as a child and abandoned in the monster forest, raised by those monsters until he became more monstrous than they were. Later, an assassination squad, while on a mission, killed the monsters that had raised the boy and brought him back. The squad recognized the boy's talent and trained him from a young age to be an assassin. The boy's name was Cable Oliggo. Shaquille told Annette, I'm taking you there to reassure your brother, but also keep a reasonable distance from your brother's son. He doesn't speak, and he's ferocious. Be careful. Annette readily agreed. But the atmosphere between us seems different. Shaquille wondered aloud. Annette quickly reassured him, Father, don't worry. I'll do what you've asked without any mistakes. To herself, Annette thought, if Shaquille likes seeing me smile, then I'll keep smiling. Shaquille was silent for a moment, then suddenly called Annette's name. Then he extended his hand towards her. Annette was surprised to see a beautiful object resting in Shaquille's palm. Puzzled, she asked, are you giving this to me? What is it? Shaquille said shyly, you don't even know about this. I picked it up on the road. Annette, bewildered, replied, you can even pick up gems just lying around. This father is so dishonest, Annette thought. When will he ever learn? Shaquille continued to ramble. Normally, this can't be given to someone who isn't directly related. I'm only giving it to you because I care about you so much. Annette held the gem, thinking, didn't he just say he found it? Despite her skepticism, she expressed her gratitude. Thank you, Father. It's beautiful. As she fastened the necklace, Annette reminded herself to offer some sweet words in moments like these. Shaquille, momentarily stunned by her praise, said, if you say so, then you probably don't know about green power. Sit down, and let me tell you. In the Empire, there are 4 founding families. Within these families flows a power source that maintains the Empire's balance. Our family wields the green power. We can hear the voices of all plants in the world and control them to heal internal and external injuries. The Oliggo family in the north commands the blue power. Anything containing water can be purified in their hands. Even drinking contaminated water will give a strangely refreshing feeling. Then there's the Ignacio family in the east, wielding the red power. They are manipulators of fire. Just hearing their name You know they're barbarians. If they feel implicated in something, they'll immediately turn hostile because of their destructive capabilities. Finally, there's the USI family's black power. Those people aren't sociable, so you might not have a chance to meet them. They control the power of darkness, and their personalities are equally gloomy. Therefore, Shaquille instructed Annette, if you encounter them, avoid interacting with them. She agreed with a smile, but inwardly mused, does this man dislike everyone except for Alfred Oliggo of the Oliggo family? Shaquille continued, when you fell into the water, I gave you a seed to eat. That's also a part of my power. It was a water-scale tree seed. Annette, curious, asked, do you remember the effects and uses of all plants? He confidently affirmed, of course. Having power and not using it is no different from having no land at all. Annette exclaimed, you're amazing. Truly a genius. I'm not very good with those things. In truth, she only remembered herbs or poisonous plants useful for survival, thanks to that mad scientist. This should be enough, she thought. Actually, I should be grateful to him. If it weren't for Duke Aubrey, I would have definitely been sold to that mad scientist. Or I would have been adopted by some merchant. Although it's a bit troublesome sometimes, I'm truly grateful. Unaware of Annette's thoughts, Shaquille said, good, I'm glad you understand. By the way, about the food you made for me last time. Before he could finish, Annette interjected, I'm sorry I made such a terrible dish. It was all because I wasn't paying attention and used 100 pieces of meat for the stew. Shaquille, even more perplexed, asked how many. He hadn't expected Annette to use 100 pieces of meat for that dish. Annette hastily apologized and promised never to do it again. Suddenly, Shaquille exclaimed, who? Startling Annette, he hesitated, then finished his sentence, who said you couldn't make it. I thought about it carefully, and it was actually quite good. Shaquille was lying. He wanted to say it was delicious and that he wanted to eat it again. He recalled Chad's mockery and found it truly hateful. Shaquille decided to drop it, making the excuse that he was busy and had to leave. He was afraid he'd completely ruin the moment. The next evening, a magical formation suddenly activated, and Duke Aubrey and his daughter, Annette, were transported to the north. Annette awoke in surprise. After washing and changing her clothes, a flash of light enveloped them, and she and Shaquille arrived at their destination. Arriving in the north took only a minute or two, much to Annette's astonishment. Finding herself surrounded by nothingness, a man came rushing towards them, calling out Shaquille's name. The man greeted Shaquille warmly. It turned out to be his brother. The two brothers embraced immediately. Annette thought to herself, I didn't expect them to embrace like this after coming to another family's territory. He doesn't seem to resist at all. She watched the affectionate brothers with surprise, then realized this man was Alfred Oliggo. Alfred asked, I heard you found your child. Is this her? Startled by the suddenness of it all, Annette quickly composed herself, took a deep breath, and introduced herself. I am Annette Aubrey. Alfred praised her cheerfully. Very good. It's a pleasure to meet you. Your manners are impeccable. Annette replied, perhaps it's because I, like my father, am also a genius. These words pleased Alfred, who responded, indeed, your father is quite the genius. It's good to see you. You must be tired arriving so early. I'll have a room prepared for you. You can sleep in after breakfast. Shaquille agreed and told Annette, rest if you're tired. She readily agreed. Annette was a little surprised. She'd rarely seen Shaquille with such a happy expression. Then she was led to the dining room, already feeling quite full. Alfred invited Shaquille to sit down and asked the servant, where is Capel? The maid replied, it seems he's on his way. Annette thought, has the protagonist of this world finally appeared? Alfred said to her, Annette, my son is still reluctant to learn proper etiquette. I hope you can understand. Of course, she replied, thinking, that child grew up with monsters. I have to be careful. Alfred offered to drop the formalities of the Duke title, which Annette found odd considering they had just met. Just then, a voice announced, the young master has been summoned. Annette wondered, what kind of person is this world's protagonist? The sound of approaching footsteps was accompanied by ferocious growls, unsettling Annette. Strange noises followed. Annette was stunned. What is that? Have they brought in a wild beast? Alfred looked at them both with some embarrassment, then stood up and excused himself. He stepped outside. Shaquille explained to Annette that the Oliggo heir had grown up around beasts and couldn't speak, making it impossible to teach him anything due to the language barrier. The boy was skilled in assassination and martial arts, and the ducal knights tasked with his care had suffered greatly. Annette immediately said, "I understand, thinking so, not a beast, but raised with monsters. But in this situation, I should say I'll get along with him." Shaquille just sighed and said, "Well, it wasn't supposed to be me, but the heroine who would come here and patiently teach him little by little. And then, naturally, Capel Oliggo would fall in love with her." Wait, don't just casually insert those explanations into my head. Annette didn't understand where these thoughts were coming from, but from the beginning, some things felt naturally like her own thoughts. She didn't know why, but it felt strange. That strange thinking had appeared again, but she felt it was better this way, as if she were her own notebook. Suddenly, what was happening? It was starting to feel like her own thoughts again, making Annette uncomfortable. Suddenly, her hand was grasped. Shaquille asked worriedly, "Annette, what's wrong? Are you unwell?" She quickly reassured him, "No, I just felt a little dizzy, thinking if I say anything, they'll think I'm crazy." But Annette truly felt like a defective product. That strange thing surfaced in her mind again. If my notes suddenly flood my mind, I definitely won't be able to handle it. So I decided to use prompts like my favorite novel. She wondered, I wonder if the notebook is the book that strange figure showed me. No, what is this notebook even talking about? It says I'm formed by my memories, knowledge, thoughts, and methods, and that I can know everything about me. The tone is so creepy, like a machine always saying I, as if I'm really thinking. Annette grumbled irritably. It immediately responded, "Understood, but I am me. If this displeases master, then I will change the way I address you." Annette hadn't expected it to be so obedient. "I have at most a few years left in my life. Do I really have to live with this thing?" Annette found it truly noisy and bothersome. Just then, Alfra entered with Capel, attempting to interact with him, asking if he liked white rice. Both Shaquille and Annette were bewildered when they saw Alfra carrying Capel, who was trying to scream and struggle. Capel, deeply displeased, glared at them both. Shaquille spoke, "Fortunately, you seem as healthy as ever." Alfra replied, "Yes, thankfully you returned safely." But Annette thought, he's already like that, and he still brought him here to eat. It seems he's quite ambitious. How can he treat a child in that state like that? It's precisely because he forces him to do things he doesn't want to do that he resists like this. She thought, isn't this just restraining a child with force? In his world, there are only beasts and commands. Alfra finally placed Capel in a chair. He didn't like it and kept growling his displeasure. Then Alfra abruptly shouted, "No." Capel, frightened, immediately quieted down. He then sat obediently in the chair without moving. Shaquille said, "Last time you wouldn't even sit at the table. You've made great progress." Alfra added, "Yes, because of constant training, you can finally sit down and eat. I hope one day." At that moment, Capel looked at them pitifully. Annette was a little surprised to see this. She knew this educational approach was wrong. No matter how firmly they spoke, he wouldn't understand and would still yell. Capel's face was now filled with discontent. Annette believed a child shouldn't be treated this way, so she got down from her chair and walked over to Capel. She smiled and asked him if he wanted to eat over there. Shaquille called out to Annette worriedly. He even stood up angrily, which frightened Annette a little. But wanting Shaquille to trust her this time, she sat down on the floor. Both Shaquille and Alfra were astonished when they saw Annette happily eating a piece of bread. Capel also noticed what Annette was doing. She seemed to be enjoying the bread with genuine delight. He quickly jumped down and excitedly walked towards Annette. As Shaquille started to protest, Alfra suddenly said, "Wait." Shaquille, confused by his brother's words, listened as Alfra continued. "I've never seen Capel sit with anyone like that. Seeing him smile so happily brings tears to my eyes." But Capel's excitement gradually calmed. Annette was surprised when Capel grabbed a whole roasted chicken and started eating it with gusto. Suddenly, she panicked because he had just taken a bite out of the freshly roasted chicken. Capel, finding it too hot, immediately dropped the chicken. Annette was certain his upper gums must have been burned. Capel, seemingly angry, growled at the chicken. Seeing this, Alfra moved to stop Capel, but Annette spoke up. She shook her head sternly, signaling him to stop, and Alfra paused. Annette decided to comfort Capel. She suddenly embraced him. At first, Capel growled uncomfortably, finding the gesture strange. But as Annette's hand gently patted his back, he quieted, a flicker of surprise in his eyes. Annette praised him, telling him he was doing well. Capel, bewildered, understood nothing. Then Annette stuffed a whole piece of bread into Capel's mouth, declaring it a reward. Capel took a bite and, unexpectedly began to chew. He found the bread surprisingly delicious and continued to eat with relish. Capel Oliggo had always been fed the hard, unappetizing bread provided by the Assassin's Guild, and so he had grown to loathe it. That voice rang out again, startling Annette. Isn't the so-called notebook supposed to explain the information gained from my past life's memories? She thought. Well, it is, but I wish you'd give me a heads up next time. It responded with a cold Annette couldn't fathom what it was sighing about. Meanwhile, Alfra, witnessing Capel eating so obediently, was deeply moved. Annette, also pleased, decided to return to the dining table. Sure enough, Capel followed her and sat down on his own accord. All right, Annette began. Let's eat. Alfra readily agreed, not forgetting to thank Annette. However, Annette ended up cutting steak all day, as Capel would only eat the pieces she cut for him. She sighed, wondering just how many steaks she had sliced. Annette had assumed she would have some free time after the meal, but Capel continued to shadow her. Who knew I'd end up with another responsibility, she thought, feeling uneasy watching the Oliggo heir wander the halls. Where are the guards? She didn't realize they, too, were frantically searching for Capel. Feeling helpless, Annette called out to him, "Let's go together. Give me your hand." Capel looked at Annette with surprise. Though his expression remained unchanged, his willingness was clear. Suddenly, the voice piped up again. "I'll tell Master's secret." Capel Oliggo has been trained to hide his expressions most of the time. He lives with a perpetually blank face. Annette was just wondering what it was doing when it continued. Master's guess was correct. I won't deny it. Annette was speechless. She had merely asked for a warning, but it had chosen a far more startling method. Thinking back to the moment she took his hand, Annette realized how rough Capel's skin was. It was hard to imagine they belonged to a child. Without further thought, Annette suggested they walk together. So the two went to the library. Annette picked up a book, thinking that if only she could decipher the ancient language on her arm. Limited time doesn't mean I have to give up on living, she mused. As long as I can make it through this, I can live peacefully at the Aubrey estate until the end of my days. The intrusive voice reappeared, explaining, the Aubrey Duchy is headed for ruin. Rosanna Aubrey's death is the unfortunate beginning. Annette realized the Duchess was about to die. Remembering the Duchess's kind face, she could guess that the arrogant Hickory Aubrey would crumble and Enos Aubrey would be driven out. And the one who would take that place was the heroine of this world, Shagina Aubrey, a slave girl who would quickly gain the affection of the entire ducal family. Annette thought of the key, suddenly recalling the diary-like entry she had read in the notebook. So that was the child who was supposed to be adopted into her place. Her lips pursed as she thought of the girl, the one who would bring about the downfall of the Aubrey Duchy. A sudden realization struck Annette, and she couldn't help but scold herself. What am I thinking? They're not my real family after all. What reason do I have to be upset? She abruptly said to Capel, "There's nothing I'm looking for here. Let's go." Seeing her prepare to leave, Capel cried out, trying to brace himself against a bookshelf. Only then did Annette turn back to look at him. Then, to her horror, Annette watched the entire bookshelf begin to topple. Fear gripped her. If Capel were injured, she would be cast out. Annette urged Capel to her side, and just as the shelf crashed down, they both narrowly avoided being crushed. She breathed a silent sigh of relief. Capel was unharmed. Annette, however, had scraped her ankle. "I think I twisted it," she said, forcing a smile. Hearing the crash, Alfra rushed in, his face etched with worry for Capel. He immediately ran to his son's side to check on him. Annette finally relaxed, seeing that Capel was truly unhurt. Shaquille hurried to Annette's side, hesitating over her name before she spoke. "Capel is all right. He doesn't seem to be injured." "I'm sorry. I brought Capel to the library without permission. I'm so sorry I didn't look after him properly. If I had been more attentive." "Enough," Shaquille interrupted sharply. Panic flared within Annette. Is he truly angry? What did I do wrong again? But Shaquille's concern was for her injury. He was already working his magic to heal her ankle. Annette assured him she was fine, to which Shaquille retorted, "You say you're fine, but look at you." She managed a weak smile. "It'll be better after a day's rest." "I'm sorry." Suddenly, she noticed Alfra holding Capel, a deep sadness in his eyes. Then, Shaquille spoke, his voice unexpected. "Did you think I wanted to hear your apologies? This is just like you." His expression was sorrowful, and Annette felt a pang of surprise. Then, Shaquille scooped her up into his arms and carried her towards her room. "You silly child," he murmured, a gentle reprimand in his tone. "Your leg is like this, and you still want to walk on your own. I just didn't want father to worry unnecessarily. I'm used to it. It's all right," Annette stammered, surprised by his actions. The Duke of Aubrey, her father, always abhorred anything unclean. Shaquille suddenly asked, "Just because you're used to it, does that mean it doesn't hurt?" "Yes," Annette replied sadly. "If you're used to it, it doesn't hurt." "Wrong," Shaquille countered swiftly. "That doesn't lessen the pain. You just want to think that. That familiarity isn't a process of lessening pain, but a moment of you falling into despair." His words warmed something within Annette. He continued, "It's just the patience to endure more and more pain." Annette couldn't understand how he knew her so well. Shaquille sighed, a hint of exasperation in his voice. "So your problem isn't noble etiquette. If it hurts, say it hurts. If you need help, ask for it. These are things you must learn as the only princess of the Aubrey family. How can you not even know how to make such small requests?" "If father wants me to, I can do it," Annette said. "Whether it's a noble princess or a haughty lady, I can be whatever father likes." "Then be the spoiled, mischievous one," Shaquille stated bluntly. Confused, Annette replied, "Didn't father say you liked bright, lovely, and talented children?" Shaquille answered, "That might change when you grow up. If a spoiled, mischievous child suddenly changes their personality, wouldn't you seem like a lunatic?" Annette wondered why his preferences would change. Shaquille's voice was firm. "Then who would dare say anything to you after that? Say what you want, don't hold back." Annette lied, saying she didn't want anything. Shaquille sounded displeased. "How can you not want anything? Think again." Carried by Duke Shaquille through the palace corridors, Annette stammered, "Didn't you already heal me? There's no reason to keep carrying me." Duke Shaquille cleared his throat, regaining his composure. "What do you know? Do you think that healing is all-powerful? It would be troublesome if it relapsed, so I must be careful. So be honored, I am carrying you." Annette, surprised by the Duke's explanation, replied, "Ah, is that so? Thank you." But a cold voice echoed in her mind, the system's stark rebuttal. "That's not true. It really is all-powerful. I'm telling you this, master." The Duke, still oblivious to his exposed lie, watched Annette force a smile as the system continued its explanation. "Master's healing ability possesses the green power, an immensely potent force. It can mend both external and internal injuries, even reviving someone on the brink of death." Annette's smile felt strained. "Is that really true?" She questioned the system internally. "Compared to that, my mistake seems insignificant. Please, don't scold me anymore." While it cannot prevent natural illnesses, the system retorted, it can heal the skin, preventing necrosis, and even extend lifespan. Suddenly, Duke Shaquille declared, "Even if the green power is omnipotent, I wouldn't want to deal with something so troublesome." The system exclaimed, "That's practically omnipotence." Annette stared at the man holding her, her thoughts churning. "I don't really need to be carried. Why is he so worried?" A blush crept up Shaquille's face. "So, don't get hurt again. It's clearly a hassle." Annette replied softly, "All right." Nestled in her father's arms, a secret joy bloomed within her. "You're so contrary," Shaquille murmured, gently setting Annette down as they reached their destination. Annette glanced around, a silent gasp escaping her. "It doesn't hurt at all." Suddenly, Shaquille spoke. Annette turned, bewildered. Shaquille feigned distaste. "I detest healing other people's injuries." His gaze dropped, a shadow of sadness crossing his features. "Even if someone were dying before me, even if I could save them, there are too many in this world I cannot save, because I'm not a man of morals, ethics, or humanity." Annette listened quietly, offering no response. Shaquille continued, "Of the 1% I'm willing to save, half are for selfish reasons, so I save them reluctantly. And you would probably be among those I'd choose to save." He extended a hand towards her. Startled by the gesture, Annette asked hesitantly, "For selfish reasons, too?" Shaquille shook his head gently, a reassuring smile playing on his lips. "No, the remaining 0.5%. Annette stared at him, surprised. Shaquille's voice softened. Whether it's the 5-year term or the contractual relationship, it wasn't a reluctant beginning. He puffed out his chest proudly. "So, ask for whatever you want. Because I am a perfect man, with ample wealth and fame, impeccable character and appearance." But inwardly, Annette deflated. Suddenly, "I'm not feeling so touched. I don't particularly want anything," she said innocently. Shaquille's voice turned cold. "Then think of something." How overbearing, Annette muttered, glancing at him sideways. A sigh escaped her lips. Shaquille's brow furrowed in concern. What is it now? Are you still uncomfortable? Annette answered wearily, of course not. Thanks to Father, I'm not in any pain at all. Her thoughts raced. Whether it's the 5-year term or the contractual relationship, it wasn't a reluctant beginning. Since Father said so, I can only do my best. There was a female researcher who developed and created a medicine that could cure the Duchess's illness. Annette's resolve hardened. I must find that researcher quickly. After a full night's rest, Annette opened her eyes, staring at the ceiling. She rose gently, dressed, and prepared to leave. A day of rest was the right choice. Thankfully, I've been granted a robust body. She slipped away quietly, her mind working. This is my chance to meet that mad scientist. If I tell Father, he'll definitely follow. I need to sneak out now and be back quickly. A thought struck her. I should leave a note by the bed. Just as she left the Duke's estate, a carriage came into view. Oh, a carriage is waiting. Perfect. Where to? Mississippi, the coachman inquired. I wish to see my mother, Annette replied. Please take me to the parking area. After a long and bumpy ride, the carriage arrived at the edge of a forest. This is the parking area, the coachman announced. Shall I help you down? Annette, feeling slightly queasy from the jostling journey, thought wearily, the carriage ride was so rough, I feel like I'm going to be sick. Yes, thank you, she murmured. The coachman stepped forward to assist her. Help me up, and then set me down, Annette instructed. He carefully complied, gently lowering her to the ground. Go find your mother then, the coachman said cheerfully, hurrying away. Annette watched him go, a slight flush of embarrassment creeping up her cheeks. Being treated like a child is a little awkward, she thought. She began to walk, glancing around at her surroundings. Wooden houses everywhere, and weapons too, she observed. I heard the mad scientist lives at the farthest end of this village. They say it's to protect the graves, so the people here rarely leave. After navigating the eerie woods, Annette finally arrived at a very old door. She reached out and knocked, thinking the graveyard and the residents are in the same place. So this must be it. Dr. Frick, are you there? She called out. A chill ran down her spine as she felt the oppressive atmosphere of the place. It would be even more terrifying at night, she thought nervously. Hearing no response, she raised her voice. Dr. Frick, is anyone home? I have a visitor, she announced, then listened intently for any sign of movement. There's no helping it, she thought. It's a good thing I brought the letter. I'll just leave it here. She carefully slipped the letter onto the door. Looking at the letter on the ground, Annette thought, you must contact me. This curse will become harder and harder to hide. Her task completed, she turned resolutely. I should go home now. Meanwhile, back at the estate, Duke Shaquille was anxiously awaiting her return. I was taking a walk, Annette explained quickly, a nervous flutter in her chest. I just went for a walk. I didn't do anything strange or dangerous. It was just a walk, really. I just took a walk in my own way, she added silently to herself. Maybe this will make him less angry, she thought sadly, reaching out to tug on his sleeve. Shaking his head at her attempt to appear innocent, the Duke listened as she continued. But, she added with a bright, forced smile, it was also the first time someone came to pick me up. Next time, I'll wait for Father. Shaquille sighed, rubbing his temples. Honestly, never mind. It's almost dinner time. Let's go home. Your uncle is waiting as well. Okay, Annette replied, relieved. Later, in the dining hall of the Duke's estate, Annette declared, I'm full. Suddenly, Alfra, Duke Oliggo, spoke up. Annette, could you stay for a moment? I'd like to apologize to you. Annette froze, surprised by his words. Apologize, she thought. Even if an apology was necessary, Duke Aubrey would politely say it wasn't needed, that it was understandable. I didn't expect Capel to push past the guards to go after you, Duke Oliggo said awkwardly. I heard your ankle was injured. Are you all right? Shaquille, I've caused you trouble. I'm fine, Annette quickly responded. Before she could finish, Shaquille interjected, yes, quite a lot of trouble. Annette was speechless. What's with him again? Duke Oliggo found his brother's attitude amusing and struggled to suppress a laugh. He couldn't contain it any longer and chuckled, leaving Annette bewildered. He can laugh like that too. Stifling his laughter, Duke Oliggo said, this is the first time I've seen you this angry since we met. Yes, Shaquille replied, because I was too careless. Capel's martial skills are exceptional. Even my knights have had their share of struggles against him. I'll be more careful from now on. Duke Oliggo asked awkwardly, this must have been upsetting for you. Duke Shaquille quickly interjected, I truly apologize for this. Capel meant no harm. Annette, seemingly unfazed, smiled brightly. Thanks to Father, she said. Duke Oliggo, looking thoughtful, replied, Thank you for forgiving me, Annette. However, Capel also wants to apologize to you. Annette asked, bewildered, apologize to me. As Annette stared in surprise, Duke Oliggo extended his hand. He's never asked me for anything before, but today he asked me to bring you to him. Would you come with me to see him? Though a little surprised, Annette readily agreed. Okay, she replied. But before their hands could touch, Duke Shaquille stepped between them. He asked uneasily, Is this really all right? Seeing this, Duke Oliggo quickly reassured him. There weren't any scrapes or anything, Shaquille. You worry too much. At these words, Duke Shaquille retorted angrily, You were injured. You're already ugly and short. What if you get even shorter? Duke Oliggo, taken aback by his brother's outburst, exclaimed, You're as dramatic as ever. Annette, equally perplexed, asked, What did I just witness? Seeing her reaction, Duke Oliggo sighed. Well, there's no helping it. I'll go get Capel. A moment passed. Capel, anxiously peeking from behind a wall, was greeted by Annette's quick, Hello, Capel. Seeing Capel's worried expression, Annette thought to herself, You don't need to feel so guilty. It was an accident. Suddenly, a strikingly beautiful blue flower appeared before Annette. She gasped, bewildered. A flower. Seeing the two children at an impasse, Duke Oliggo explained, These flowers only bloom for those who carry the bloodline of the Duke Oliggo. Duke Shaquille grumbled under his breath, That brat. After a moment of stunned silence, Annette spoke. Thank you, Capel. Capel, pointing at his own mouth, stammered, said, Hey, Capel. Seeing this, Annette smiled. Yes, your name is Capel. But Capel, blushing shyly, just stared at her. Annette suddenly exclaimed in confusion, thinking to herself, is he trying to ask my name? And with such a cute expression, too. Aloud, she said, My name is Annette. Repeat after me, Annette. Capel, beaming, repeated after her and rushed into her arms. Annette. Duke Shaquille, horrified by the scene, paled. Starting so young, I can't believe it. Duke Oliggo cried out in astonishment. My son is speaking. Duke Shaquille snapped, Let go of her. Capel, seeing Duke Shaquille yelling at him, grew uncomfortable and looked back angrily. Annette sighed inwardly. What chaos! After the commotion died down, Duke Shaquille spoke. We should be going home. Duke Oliggo replied with a smile. All right, and thank you for agreeing to come here. And Annette, could you come again sometime? Annette replied with a gentle smile, If I have the chance. Capel, from the side, called out Annette. Hearing him, Annette turned back. I'll come play again. You study hard, and we can talk more next time. Capel called her name again, Annette. Annette thought to herself, bewildered. He only remembered my name. Huh. Seeing this, Annette pointed in a direction. Studying is that stuff over there. The two children looked towards a nearby bookshelf. Annette quickly added, Once you've learned all of that we'll meet again. She waved goodbye with a smile. See you later. Duke Oliggo said cheerfully, Goodbye, Annette Shaquille. Capel waved goodbye, looking dazed. As soon as she disappeared, Capel cried out in surprise. Capel's cries echoed, Annette. Annette thought to herself, a little bewildered, it feels like parents stopping their child from going out. A few days later, a disaster far greater than being crushed by a bookshelf occurred. In one's life, there are bound to be a few truly dangerous moments, and perhaps today was one of them. Someone spoke anxiously, and several maids wept, covering their faces in fear. Enos, too, watched the scene before him with worry, as Duke Shaquille angrily demanded. Annette worried, thinking, Are you crazy? And indeed, there she was, her hair now drastically shorter. My hair was too noticeable, she thought, a flicker of anxiety in her chest. Her short hair framed her face as she smiled sweetly. Green hair might be rarer than I thought, Annette mused, valuable enough to trade for a chimera. She'd tip off the guards about that shop later. Behind her skirt, Jess peeked out fearfully. Remembering the shopkeeper's crestfallen expression, Annette turned away, a blush warming her cheeks. By now, the guards or some inspector must have stormed the place and arrested them, she thought grimly. Suddenly, a voice boomed, Annette. It was Duke Shaquille. At the sound of Shaquille's voice, Annette spun around. Enos, looking as if he might cry, asked, Did someone bully you? Panicked, Annette quickly denied it. No, it was just too hot with long hair. Enos's voice sharpened. Then why didn't you ask for help instead of cutting it yourself? Flustered, Annette mumbled, I just wanted to change, while inwardly thinking, it was for the pet. A shiver of fear ran down her spine. Enos was one thing, but the silently brooding Shaquille Dabri was the real problem. Suddenly, Shaquille spoke. Enos, isn't it almost time for your lessons? Enos stammered, Can't we postpone today's lesson until tomorrow? Shaquille's voice was a low rumble. Don't be absurd. Tears welling in his eyes, Enos pointed at Annette. I'll come see you later. He's getting more and more annoying, Annette thought, bewildered. Duke Shaquille barked, son, sit down. I feel like I'm sitting on pins and needles, Annette thought nervously. Annette, Shaquille called. Yes, she answered anxiously. Shaquille's voice was heavy with disappointment. Did you really think I wouldn't know what you were up to? Annette quickly resorted to flattery. Father is a genius. After all, it's only natural that you would know. I'm dead if I don't butter him up, she thought frantically. A flush crept up Duke Shaquille's neck. I know you have your own way of doing things, your own thoughts, he said, a hint of awkwardness in his voice. So I usually turn a blind eye. But if my leniency leads you to underestimate the dangers you face, then I have no choice but to intervene. It's not like that, Annette rushed to say. It's not that serious. Shaquille's voice rose in anger. This isn't just any pet. How can you call a chimera just a pet? He added, as if explaining a chimera or chimera is a genetic term referring to an organism or organ carrying multiple sets of chromosomes or different DNA, usually formed by the fusion of different zygotes or different genomes. Returning to his previous anger, he demanded, did you sell your hair to buy that pet? Shaquille's question hit the mark, leaving Annette speechless. He's right, she admitted to herself, but I didn't have enough money. I can't let father control me. I still have so much to do. There was no other way. As if reading her thoughts, Shaquille continued furiously, if something like this happens again, then he began, but Annette interrupted. I just wanted to do something with the money I earned myself, she said, her eyes shining as she looked at him. Of all the 36 stratagems, playing cute is the most effective, she thought, putting on her most adorable expression. Father, please don't be angry. It's my fault. Duke Shaquille seemed taken aback by her sudden shift in demeanor. His face paled slightly. Don't think you can solve everything in the world by acting cute, he said, his voice strained. Does he think I'm cute? Annette wondered, a small smile playing on her lips. Shaquille quickly regained his stern composure. If something were to happen to you, your mother would be heartbroken. Annette's voice was subdued. Yes, I understand. Having delivered his warning, Shaquille's tone shifted to curiosity. What is it exactly? I've looked into it, but there's no record of even its scientific name. He's already investigated that much. Annette thought, alarmed. She quickly scooped up Jess. Yes, well, I heard it's a very rare animal, she explained, improvising quickly, and I haven't reported it to the import-export authorities yet, so if they find out, they'll take it away. Annette hesitated for a moment, then continued, so I have to be careful. I heard the shopkeeper threatened to have it reincarnated if no one bought it. She thought to herself firmly, I have to shift all the blame. I wonder if he'll fall for it. Aloud, she added, seeing it locked in a cage in the shop was truly pitiful, just like what I went through before. Duke Shaquille remained silent at her words. Annette quickly explained, and I thought, maybe father doesn't like animals. Suddenly, Duke Shaquille admonished her. Nonsense. Be careful next time. Don't underestimate yourself. If you lose the elegance of a duchess, it'll be troublesome. Hearing these words, Annette breathed a sigh of relief, thinking, phew, I'm free. She replied with a smile, yes. Duke Shaquille said resignedly, bring it after dinner. I want to see if it's worth keeping. Annette cheerfully replied, okay. After dinner, in the tea room, Duke Shaquille continued, I called you here because I have something to say, although part of it is about that pet. Annette replied pleasantly, yes, father. Shaquille, holding a paper, said, first, you'll start school next week. Okay, Annette replied blankly. Then Shaquille continued, besides that, there's the matter of the synthetic magic stone. Annette thought blankly, what's wrong with that? She hesitantly replied, yes. Startled by Shaquille's following question, she asked, how did you know? I did some experiments, as you said, and the magic stones can withstand various forces, and they all melt at a specific temperature. Duke Shaquille asked suspiciously, how did you know? That mad scientist, he didn't get that name for nothing. Before conducting body fusion experiments, he experimented with synthetic magic stones. Annette thought, 987 degrees, I found that the magic stone has to reach this temperature to melt. Breaking out in a cold sweat, she thought resolutely, I can't tell this truth. Anyone who hears it will find it strange. After some thought, Annette said cheerfully, I just happen to know. Shaquille said in exasperation, happened to. My daughter hides a lot of things. I can't even open your head to take a look. Duke Shaquille then pushed the paper over, saying, the synthetic magic stone will soon be commercialized. I'll let you see the relevant contract. Annette sighed, thinking, finally commercialized. Now I can use this money for my own things. Staring at the paper, she thought, if I'm already greedy for one share, I'm even greedier for two. With so much money to be made, I can't just give it up. Annette stared blankly at the paper, then suddenly made a displeased expression. Pointing at the paper, she said, "Father, there's a mistake here." Duke Shaquille asked in surprise, "What are you talking about?" There wasn't anything strange during the discussion. Pointing at the paper, she continued, "It says here that all the profits are mine." Duke Shaquille replied, "I can't quite see what you're talking about." Annette exclaimed angrily, "No, it's right here." Shaquille continued indifferently, "I'm telling you I can't see it clearly," she said angrily, "if you lean forward a little." Suddenly, Annette picked up the paper, startling Duke Shaquille. She said loudly, "Father, I'm talking about this part." Annette asked in surprise, "Isn't there an extra zero written here?" Duke Shaquille saw his daughter's attitude. Shaquille smiled gently, then said, "That's a circle, so I can give all the profits entirely to you." Annette, still not understanding what was happening, stared blankly. Realizing what had happened, she blushed, saying, "You have to make this clear." Annette said worriedly, "This is sure to be popular. Won't you feel sorry for giving me all 10 shares?" Duke Shaquille said in surprise, "So?" Annette quickly replied, "You'll regret it." Duke Shaquille said with teary eyes, "You won't accept what I give you, and now you're trying to give me all the money you earn." Annette thought, he'll definitely regret it. Or maybe not, since this man has practically taken over many of the Empire's commercial districts. Annette stared at her father. Thinking of the Aubrey ducal family, she knew she had no other choice. With a sigh, she said, "Then we'll have to modify the contract slightly. If something happens to me," Annette stated firmly, "then the exclusive distribution rights will be transferred to the ducal family." Shaquille asked, surprised, "You say if something happens to you?" Annette amended the contract, replying, "Yes, no one knows what the future holds." Duke Shaquille reached out as if to stop her. "That won't happen," he said. Annette's voice was laced with a manufactured concern. "But I really feel it's a pity, so I have to do this. If I can't produce medicine for the Duchess, I'll die, and Father will die too. Of course, whether I succeed or not, I'll die. Can't this condition be considered insurance?" Annette pressed. Shaquille sighed, exasperated. "TSK, there's no dealing with you." She picked up the contract, her voice bright. "All right, Father, then let's sign the contract." Annette smiled. "Thank you, Father, for agreeing to my request." Duke Shaquille replied, "You're welcome, because you've done well what you should do." Annette feigned confusion. "Why should do?" Duke Shaquille nodded. "Yes, seeing you really is like seeing my daughter return." At these words, Annette paused, her expression carefully blank. Shaquille continued, a note of sadness in his voice. "So I always think if that child were safe and sound, she would have grown up just like you." Annette stared at the Duke, her face a mask of innocence. "That's wonderful," she explained. "It means I'm playing the role of your daughter well, right?" Shaquille nodded. "Yes." Leaving that aside, the pastries I brought. Suddenly, Annette clapped her hands together in a burst of feigned enthusiasm. "All right, I have a lot of things to do." She backed away, already turning to leave. "I'll eat the pastries later." "But," Shaquille began, but Annette was already hurrying away. "See you later, Father." Duke Shaquille watched her go, a dazed, almost tearful expression on his face. Meanwhile, in the hallway, Jess walked happily along. At the same time, having left the tea room, Annette walked away, grief etched on her face. "What am I doing? Things to do. Who would believe that?" She thought bitterly. Like an idiot, she berated herself. "You mustn't forget, you're just adopted." Unconsciously, I started to imagine myself as part of this family. To Duke Shaquille D'Aubrey, I'm just pretending to be his daughter, but I took it for granted. Suddenly, Jess approached Annette from behind, letting out a small cry. "Well, you know how to act cute too?" Annette said, a hint of resignation in her voice. Scooping Jess up in her arms, she told herself, "Don't be sad here. This is a reminder that I'm not his real daughter. Don't forget, you're just a replacement. But everything is going according to plan," she murmured, her voice regaining its steel. "If the composite magic stone is revealed, I will definitely receive an invitation. The Imperial Scholar Society, where the Empire's most influential scholars are selected as Scholar of the Year and invited to share their knowledge." Walking away, Jess cradled in her arms, Annette continued her internal monologue. "It's called a Scholar Society, but it's actually a banquet. I remember that mad scientist being selected as Scholar of the Year at the Autumn Banquet for using the composite magic stone." Her thoughts sharpened. Half a month later, that's when he'll complete that invention. Although the Autumn Banquet is still 2 months away, my business must be completed within half a month. Stand before him and steal all the credit. Breaking from her reverie, Annette spoke to Jess, a playful lilt in her voice. It seems you don't have a name yet. Let me think. Although I don't expect you to continue to do well on your own either. She suggested, how about Jess? Jess seemed to like the name, wagging its tail excitedly. I hope that no matter what difficult path you encounter, you must continue to live, Annette continued. Jess cried out, nuzzling its head against her face. Suddenly, the scenery around Annette shifted, and she asked in surprise, what is this? I heard that chimeras have some kind of magic. Is this it? She wondered, but it only changed for a moment before returning to normal. Suddenly, a loud voice called out from afar. Hey, gone again. Enos said excitedly, let's have some snacks together. Annette smiled in response. I've already eaten, Annette thought, assuming he hadn't seen her. Undeterred, Enos continued, you still have to eat. Someone just bought 20 animal-shaped cookies from the most famous bakery in the capital. If you don't eat them, I'll have to throw them away. But if I throw them away, they'll become trash, and I feel like I have to protect the environment, so I brought them here. But you don't seem to like sweets. Annette thought exasperatedly. What is this? Such a long preamble. Is he feeling unwell? Enos blushed, thinking this is so embarrassing. Annette conceded, all right, I do like warm milk with a lot of honey. Enos, his face still flushed, asked really, I'll go prepare it right away. Come to my room in 10 minutes. Faced with the hopeful gleam in Enos's eyes, Annette, feeling a little weary, replied, okay, I understand. To herself, she wondered, am I crazy? Why do I find him acting like this cute? Why doesn't he just say he wants to eat with me? So you bought them, Annette thought with a gentle smile. It seems I'm gradually growing fond of this family. Able to smile after hearing those words, she clenched her fists, thinking resolutely, then I can't just stand by and watch. I have to find someone to research and produce the medicine. For the Duchess. Annette turned to leave, saying firmly, now, no matter what, I have to find it. I'm taking matters into my own hands again. Duke Aubrey is going to be angry. A few days later, Annette worried. If I ask Shaquille D'Aubrey for help, I know he'll definitely help me, but I can't tell him the truth. Annette anxiously pondered, because I can't clearly explain why I know this truth. If I'm considered a witch, it'll be even more of a headache in the future. She worriedly calculated. Can I say I want to recruit a maid and then go with Aubrey to meet the pharmacist? It's the person who helped me before. Bringing her back shouldn't be a problem. Annette sighed wearily. It's time. Enos is still waiting for me. Arriving at Enos's room, she worried. I made him wait again. I wonder how much he'll fuss. Suddenly entering the room, Annette exclaimed in surprise. Ah. Confused, she cried out inwardly, Father. She wondered, why is he here all of a sudden? Duke Shaquille began to speak, recalling his conversation with the butler. Pedro, if it's 10 shares, I'll give you 5. She was adopted after all. It's already painful enough being someone's replacement. How can you say such things? Duke Shaquille, his face flushed with embarrassment, said, I came because I have something to say. Butler Pedro's words still echoed in his mind. Those words are no different from telling the child that even so, you're just my replacement daughter. The young miss wanted to solve everything herself is very much like the master in his youth. Duke Shaquille blushed, thinking, if it weren't for Pedro saying those troublesome things, saying she's so much like me in my youth. Annette stared blankly at Shaquille. Unsure of what to do, Duke Shaquille thought, it makes one can't help but care. He said awkwardly, although you resemble my returned biological daughter, I've never thought of you as that child. Not just you, when I see children your age, I often think of my daughter. Annette was surprised by Duke Shaquille's words. I am me, and that child is that child. Annette stood staring blankly at Duke Shaquille, then suddenly she smiled brightly. Hesitantly, she asked, Father, do you mean you like me? Upon seeing that expression, Duke Shaquille blushed crimson. Abruptly, he declared, no, I don't like anything. Hearing this, Annette thought, what's this? It sounds like something a young person would say. She retorted, a little annoyed, if you don't like anything, don't you find it boring? Duke Shaquille replied, once I like something, it will eventually become my weakness, chanrauja wadahong, and in the end, it will still leave me. Their gazes locked, Annette's expression unreadable. Duke Shaquille continued, his voice cold, so it's best not to get attached to anything. Annette's fists clenched. Is that so? She retorted, then I hope Father won't become attached to me either. The Duke asked, surprised, what? Annette quickly replied, it's just a natural thought. Thinking to herself that they were destined to part ways anyway, Annette offered a chilling smile. So let's not get too fond of each other. Let's just pretend we don't care. A pang of something like pain resonated within Duke Shaquille as Annette added, after all, we'll have to say goodbye in 5 years. Even if we don't say it aloud. Annette continued, her fists still clenched, a flicker of unease in her heart. We both know it in our minds. A cold-blooded man. If you pricked him like this, would he even bleed? If nobles truly had blue blood, then this man must be the epitome. Author's note: blue blood is a symbol of social status, often used to refer to European nobles and those of noble descent. Returning to the story, Annette replied, "Yes, I should listen to the father who adopted me. I'm sorry for causing you needless trouble." With that, she turned to leave. "I'll be going then." Duke Shaquille's fists clenched in anger. As the Duke turned to look, a fork clattered to the floor. "Enos," the Duke exclaimed in surprise. Enos, equally startled, questioned, "Father, are you discriminating against her because she's adopted? Even so, you brought her here yourself. How can you treat her like this?" "Why wouldn't I?" the Duke retorted, surprised by the accusation. "What did she mean by having to say goodbye soon?" Enos asked coldly. Elsewhere, Annette thought to herself, he heard everything. I haven't even told Enos about the 5-year contract yet. Meanwhile, the Duke coldly replied, "That's none of your concern." "It is my concern," Enos exclaimed angrily. "I'm supposed to have snacks with her." Shaquille questioned, those cookies everyone else was going to throw away." Enos stammered, "Who said I was going to throw them away?" Overhearing everything, Annette thought he went out of his way to buy them early this morning. He must be feeling pretty wronged right now. Even though they're angry at each other, they're so similar, they can't even express themselves properly. This is amusing. Should I tease him a little? Suddenly, Annette spoke up. "It's fine. Whether they were picked up or thrown away, I'll eat them." Annette continued, a bright smile on her face. "After all, I often went hungry at the orphanage." The two men fell silent, the atmosphere suddenly heavy. Annette's heart sank. I went too far, she thought. Enos quickly said, "Come on, the milk's getting cold." "All right, I'm coming," Annette replied. Hesitantly, she asked, "Brother, are you angry?" Enos's face flushed, and he quickly denied it. "I'm not angry," Enos insisted. "Let's eat," Annette asked, bewildered. "How am I supposed to eat all of this?" "Then eat a lot," Enos replied. "Didn't you ask me to bring warm milk?" Annette blushed. But, then, noticing the animal-shaped cookies, she quickly exclaimed, "They're so cute." Enos, seeing her excitement, began to explain, "Cute, right? I went and lined up early this morning." Before he could finish, Annette cut him off. "Thank you for throwing me all these delicious cookies." Enos quickly responded, "Well, I brought those back too." Picking up a cake, Annette asked cheerfully, "You didn't just bring them back because you wanted to get rid of the trash, did you?" "You're so mean." Enos was stunned, speechless. As she ate, Annette thought, did I take the joke too far? Enos hesitated, then offered, "Here, have this one too." She thought to herself, well, all in all, it's been a peaceful day. Elsewhere, Duke Shaquille was lost in thought, pondering what to do that day. Annette entered Duke Shaquille D'Aubry's room. "Father," she began, "I heard you brought me a gift." Duke Shaquille D'Aubry said coldly, "Indeed, but they're not from Minos. They're the snacks I personally picked up from the shops and factories. You don't need to thank me." Annette replied quickly, "While I'm truly curious about what happened, I heard you bought not just snacks, but the entire factory. This is the first time I've ever received a factory, and I'm not sure how to manage it." A flicker of worry crossed her face. "I've never received such an expensive gift. You'll receive things like this often from now on, so get used to it." A weight settled in Annette's chest, her heart quickening. "Perhaps I'm not qualified to be a noble. I'll just keep it for now. Once the real daughter, Kay, returns, you'll be kicked out." Annette's eyes widened in bewildered realization. "What? That's not my thought. Is that what the Duke is thinking? This isn't the diary, is it? It's been so peaceful lately, I almost forgot. Who's thinking these things? It's your strange diary, creating illusions." "Seriously, I told you not to say things that sound like my thoughts." "But Kay isn't an adopted daughter. She's the biological daughter." "Isn't the biological daughter already dead?" The diary was a strange book that caused illusions, and to avoid conveying misinformation, Annette chose to remain silent. Can a book have feelings too? "No, you've been arbitrarily reading my thoughts from the beginning. This is an invasion of my privacy. You seem to really like being called diary, huh? I'm merely using special, unique, extraordinary powers to provide my master with information ordinary people shouldn't know. Kay is indeed Duke D'Aubry's biological daughter. This means the biological daughter is still alive. If that's the case, maybe I don't need to stay here. I can help find the biological daughter and receive compensation." That's what the diary says. So it's possible it's not like that. To be precise, These are the master's records. Diary. The master sees it written like this. But the diary is originally the victor's right to store information long-term as they please. Just like a tyrant deifying themselves as a saint after victory, false information can become the truth. So the diary is trying to say it's not a diary, but a record. Higgins Diabry is actually fake, and she's just pretending to be her. Is that what the diary is trying to say? Not a diary, but a record. People all believe Higgins Diabry is the only daughter of the Diabry family, and unless the real one appears, this will become the only truth. Isn't it trying to tell me to find the real daughter? Not that fake Higgins Diabry. Just find the real daughter. Duke Shaquille Diabry called Annette repeatedly, but she didn't hear him. Annette, the Duke called out. Annette jumped, startled, and replied loudly yes. Duke Shaquille Diabry leaned down and asked, "What are you thinking about? I called you several times, and you didn't answer." Annette stammered, well. Duke Shaquille Diabry continued, "Do you not believe you'll become a capable person in the future?" In reality, Annette hadn't heard a word he'd said initially. She thought frantically, what did he say while I was talking to the diary? Annette improvised, forcing a smile. Yes, because I wasn't born a noble. Duke Shaquille Diabry sighed. It's all right, because you're the only daughter of the ducal family. None of those other fellows have daughters. Indeed, none of the other ducal families had daughters. So when Higgins Diabry was adopted, it caused a sensation in the news. It was as if the world had been prepared for Higgins Diabry, centered around her, creating a world just for her. Duke Shaquille Diabry crossed his arms. Well, the white season is approaching, and we'll go see it then. Annette looked up in surprise. The white season? Duke Shaquille Diabry continued. It can be considered an exchange meeting between the 4 Grand Dukes and the Emperor. The heads of the 4 powers must regularly report to the Emperor and exchange information. Before discussing important national policies, they discuss them at that meeting first. Annette thought to herself, as expected, the ducal families held special authority and wielded considerable influence. Duke Shaquille Diabry, she asked, why is it called the White Season? The Duke replied, nothing special. It's just the name given because the Emperor lost so badly gambling at the first meeting. Annette, her face impassive, looked at Duke Shaquille. The name means that no matter the color of the light, when it converges, it becomes white, she explained. He lost 3 times in a row and still arrogantly accused us of cheating, even threatening to report us for insulting the imperial family. Annette paused, stunned. The Emperor knew it wasn't cheating, yet he still called it that. Of course it was cheating. Anyway, if it's not an emergency summons, then it's a regular meeting. Twice a year, about 5 days each. During that time, I have to stay in the capital and can't return to the estate. He finally stopped speaking in riddles. A duke was a duke after all. Annette's expression seemed odd. Duke Shaquille Diabry asked, were you just thinking something strange? Annette quickly replied, no, I was just thinking that you are my daughter, and a righteous tree is not afraid of a crooked shadow. You must never lose heart. Speaking of which, you also have this invitation. Annette's eyes widened. An invitation. Let me see. She eagerly took it, praying, I only received 1 invitation. Please let it be for the Autumn Scholar Society. Duke Shaquille flourished a stack of invitations. Here, Annette was practically buried beneath them. What is this? Duke Shaquille replied, invitations. What else could they be? After looking through nearly all of them, Annette asked, bewildered, why are they all for afternoon tea? The Duke said, I've personally declined some of the more unusual invitations. You needn't worry. Annette hesitated. So this pile is what's left after you've filtered them, father. There are occasionally some bothersome individuals who try to impose. Annette was not pleased. Are there no invitations besides those for afternoon tea? Duke Shaquille answered, the majority are like that. There's also an invitation to the Imperial Scholars Society banquet. I heard you were chosen as Scholar of the Year. Hearing this, Annette searched and finally found it. May I go? She asked. Duke Shaquille looked at the invitation in her hand. If you wish to go, then go. However, there may not be many children your age there, and you cannot go alone. You must have an escort. Thank you, father. Then I'll take Mary and Cordelia with me. Only 1 escort is permitted. Annette thought for a moment. Let me ask Mary and Cordelia what they think. But only intellectuals capable of socializing with the scholars there were allowed entry, which suggested Mary and Cordelia were unsuitable escorts. Annette's eyes widened. He didn't like Mary and Cordelia. So, you're not letting me go? She asked. Duke Shaquille answered uncomfortably, find a suitable escort. Annette looked at him. Then who do you think would be suitable, father? At least suggest someone. They must be capable of protecting you, quick-witted and intelligent, knowledgeable enough to converse with the scholars there, preferably with a pleasing appearance, and ideally not a stranger. Annette could only smile. Wasn't this the same as saying he wouldn't let her go? Oh, was this the same scenario as last time? Surely not. Although he said the same thing last time, I didn't think it was possible, but then again, he was Duke d'Aubry. Feigning a cough, Annette said, "Father, if you aren't busy, you could accompany me." Before she could finish, Duke Shaquille declared, "Although I'm busy, I have no choice. My daughter has asked, so no matter how troublesome, I must go. As parents, we can only accompany you." The Empire held only 2 meetings a year in the meeting room deep within the Imperial Palace. The only pure white door in the capital, and those who knew when it opened were referred to as the White Season. The sacred ground where the nation's important affairs were decided lay beyond that door, but in reality. Duke Ignacio suddenly burst out laughing. "That's what I'm saying." He tilted his wine glass precariously. Duke Shaquille remarked, "It's turned into a drinking party already." Ignacio called out, "You're late again today." Glenn Bruh approached, remarking, "This place always has such a dreary atmosphere." Ignacio frowned. "We're practically the same age. Don't act so old." Duke Bruh glanced at Atassi, still as frivolous as ever. All right, Ignacio declared. "Since everyone's here, let's begin the meeting. There's something important to discuss. Then get on with it. My eldest son recently won the youth swordsmanship competition." "Really? He won the championship even though I haven't taught him anything yet." Duke Atassi boomed, "It's just a children's competition." Duke Ignacio turned to Shaquille d'Aubry. "I heard your second child received an invitation to the Imperial Scholar Association's conference." Shaquille puffed up with pride. "My daughter was even selected as Scholar of the Year by the Imperial Scholar Association. Although, during the White Season, it's truly a time for deciding important state affairs." Ignacio sputtered, "Glenn, are you laughing at me? I'm going to get angry." Shaquille continued, "What's there to brag about with such trivial matters?" Atassi interrupted, "You're all so superficial." But these meaningless conversations, whether it's showing off your daughters or hosting banquets, are even more common. Oliggo cut them all off. All right, everyone calm down. Don't argue over such trifles. You might faint when you hear my news. My son has started talking. He even knows how to sit at the dinner table and eat properly," Atassi continued. "That's certainly worth celebrating, though not as much as my son winning the magic competition," Ignacio retorted, not to be outdone. "Yes, that is indeed praiseworthy, although not as much as my son. Will you all stop these childish squabbles? Aren't the most adorable and favored ones the prince and princess anyway?" Speaking of which, Duke d'Aubry found his lost daughter. Ignacio gasped, "What? Why didn't you mention such an important matter?" Shaquille turned away. "Are you my friend? Don't talk nonsense, Glenn. I heard you found the child who was lost during that chaos." Shaquille replied coolly, "Yes. Is there a problem?" Atassi hesitated. "No." Both Oliggo and Ignacio looked at Shaquille with admiration. "I didn't expect it to be a daughter. Truly impressive. Before I met that child, she was intelligent, kind, and particularly straightforward. Just like Shaquille, not at all like you. Nothing special, rather annoying. In fact," Oliggo replied. "Really, I don't find her annoying at all. Extremely annoying. One day, she even tried to cook a meal herself and bring it to me as a gift, saying she wanted to visit the capital. And she insisted on dragging me, a busy man, to the Imperial Scholar Conference. She jumped for joy over a few pastries. How smart can she be? She even gave me all the rights and profits from the creation of the fusion magic stone. I really don't know how she's supposed to survive in this world. My daughter is the best. She's so annoying doing this and that." Everyone turned to stare at Shaquille d'Aubry. So, but that fusion magic stone is truly amazing. How did you create it? Why should I tell you? The ownership belongs to my daughter. Or you could kneel and beg my daughter. Seriously, why would I beg for something like that? Shaquille said uncomfortably, "Forget it. Let's eat first and then continue the meeting." My daughter knew I was going out and prepared food for me to bring. Really? The next topic is the regular monster subjugation and expulsion, which is the responsibility of the ducal families. How are things this time? It's my responsibility this time as well. After all, the North is where monsters are most rampant. The next topic concerns the plague. Even using the temple's purification power has no effect. Your Highness, it's your turn. If it's about purification power, shouldn't it be the eldest brother who steps forward? While you say that, we can't push everything onto the Duke. I have to play this card. Ignacio boomed, then lowered his voice at a pointed look. There's someone perfectly suited to fill the role anywhere, so long as it's verdant. He'd excel. I don't want to go. My daughter hasn't fully adjusted to life at the estate yet. I don't want to embark on an expedition. Then who should we send? Elder brother is going to the plague-stricken area, and Duke Ignacio is involved in the subjugation. Suddenly, someone came to report, "Excuse me for the interruption." "What is it?" The man was asked. "We have a visitor. May we allow the guest to enter?" "Since when do we receive guests during the white season?" The head steward retorted. "Then I'll send them back." Isn't that the obvious course of action? The young lady has overheard. Duke d'Aubry says the young lady is disrupting the meeting and should return. Everyone looked respectfully towards the door. "Is that so? I apologize for the disturbance." "I'm sorry, Mississippi. It's all right. I wasn't being considerate." Oliggo looked at Shaquille. "That voice. I thought father would come out to see me if I came. How foolish of me." Shaquille d'Aubry's temper flared. "I've changed my mind. Let her in," he called out to his daughter. "It's break time now." Ignacio chuckled. It seems that child truly is his daughter. Astonishing. It's the first time I've seen him so flustered. I like to tease him a bit too. Don't act rashly. Duke Ignacio approached and greeted her. "Hello." Mississippi Shaquille d'Aubry roared. "What are you doing here?" Seeing Ignacio approach his daughter, Shaquille d'Aubry intercepted him. He smiled thinly. This is our first meeting, isn't it? If you're here, you must be one of the dukes. Red hair, a large build. You must be Duke Ignacio. It's a pleasure to meet you." Annette's sweet voice struck a chord with Ignacio. "Hey, Greenie, give her to me. I've always wanted a daughter. Perhaps ask your wife, or let's arrange a marriage between our families. Both my eldest and youngest sons are handsome and talented. This is the first time I've met someone so disrespectful to Shaquille d'Aubry. A marriage with your family. I'd rather die. The thought of those brats as husbands for my daughter. I couldn't rest in peace. Coming quickly. What did you bring?" "Oh, it's dinner. I heard from father that the palace food is terrible." "How is lunch?" "I've been carrying it since lunch, waiting outside." Shaquille d'Aubry praised Annette's cooking. "The palace food is truly dreadful. My daughter's cooking is far superior. Isn't waiting until evening a bit much? But I didn't expect to disturb everyone. I'll leave after delivering the food. It's break time now. You're not disturbing anyone." Shaquille d'Aubry asked coldly, "Have you eaten?" Annette replied, "Not yet. I'll eat when I get back." Shaquille d'Aubry sighed. "Since you're here, eat before you go. It's break time. Stop putting on airs." "It's all right. I don't want to interrupt father's work." Shaquille d'Aubry barked at Annette. "I said it's break time. Honestly, is he making me eat here? I don't want to dine with these men, and the emperor is here too. The pressure is immense. If I had known, I would have eaten beforehand." No, I don't want to, but dealing with the grumpy and nagging Duke d'Aubry is even more bothersome. I wanted to spend time with father too. "Greetings, everyone. I am d'Aubry." The emperor greeted d'Aubry amiably. "You must be tired, traveling such a distance." "You've done well." Annette smiled brightly. "Is this the emperor?" Atassi peeked from inside. "Is this the green child?" Shaquille d'Aubry stopped him. "My daughter is not an object. Isn't the emperor of the empire usually terrifying?" Suddenly Atassi raised his voice, cursed little devil. He stared intently at Annette. "Duke Atassi, only 7 years at most. Greenie, this child is nearing death." How does he know you crossed the line so often that you can no longer distinguish between what you should and shouldn't say? "I know you've created a world of your own, but when you step outside, you lack social skills. You know, Duke d'Aubry, stop it right now. What are you doing in front of me?" "Duke Atassi, you can't just say those things either." "Duke Atassi, I heard you rule over darkness. Rule over curses and death." "Bruh, I'm just telling the truth." The young lady, Annette, ran over and hugged Atassi, whispering in his ear, "Uncle, Annette, Uncle doesn't like me, but I have a good impression of you. I know what you want to say, but please don't say it. Whether it's death or how I'm going to die, my best friends know it clearly. But father knows nothing because I'm only father's daughter for a 5-year term. I don't intend to let Duke d'Aubry know about my situation, even if I tell him there's no way to save me. If there really was a way, that crazy scientist would have already taken action. So please keep it a secret from me. I beg you. Knowing will only make him worry more." "Okay." Atassi stood motionless. Shaquille d'Aubry scolded his daughter. "You can't just hug anyone, especially that weirdo with glasses." Annette's actions made Atassi break out in a cold sweat. Annette smiled and said, "I heard your father's friend, so I'm very happy. I didn't forget my brother. I forgot Duke Oliggo. He thought I wanted to get close to someone. I was just joking with my handsome uncle." "Duke Atassi, what did you mean just now?" "It must have been my misunderstanding. I went too far with the joke." "Glenn, I'm going out for some air." Annette pleaded with Shaquille D'Aubry. Father, I'll go out for a while too, okay? Shaquille D'Aubry relented, somewhat exasperated. Fine. Annette quickly caught up with Atasi, Dark Uncle. Atasi admonished Annette, stop using that strange nickname. Seriously, it's a skill to have survived until now. I heard the ruler of darkness can also see the dead. Thank you for covering for me. Atasi replied, I just didn't want to be beaten by Glenn. Uncle, are you looking for your brother? That twin brother. According to Master's orders, the diary has read the information related to Salit. After Atasi, I heard a series of information about him. I don't know when I lost the armor and started to know how to use the diary. My personality must be terrible too, right? Go to Red Rock Mountain. There's a very small crevice at the top, but it's just big enough for a child to crawl through. How do you know this? The Atasi ducal family has an extremely evil custom. When twins are born, they sacrifice the weaker child to someone else so that the remaining child can grow up healthy. I'm sorry if that makes you uncomfortable. Just think of it as me meddling because I wanted to thank you. Aren't you afraid of death? That's certainly a question worth considering. I'm afraid, but what else can I do? There might be no way to save me anymore. I understand my own situation, but I haven't found any clues about the pattern on my arm. But I haven't given up yet. Now I've finally met someone who can see my curse. I hope you can help me in the future. After the white season ended, Annette and her father still got along harmoniously. If you go to the party, you just need to ask the handsome Duke Atasi for help. You don't need me, right? Isn't this harmonious? At the residence of the head of the Glenn family, a person entered and said, Master, this is the situation. There's a mountain of documents that need to be processed. Why are you still sitting there? I've been waiting for you to handle work since morning. Shaquille D'Aubry said, speak slowly. He continued, although it's a bit rude, these are all urgent matters that need to be presented immediately. Hurry up. I also want to try my best to handle it, but didn't my daughter tell me not to push myself anymore? Just because the Duke praised Duke Atasi for being handsome and dashing, it increased my young lady's burden. Annette had to coax her sulking father. I see, Shaquille D'Aubry said, gesturing towards the stack of documents. How much do you plan to get through today? 1 out of 50 is enough, isn't it? At this rate, you won't even finish the urgent documents. We were supposed to be done with all of this before afternoon tea. It's time to stop pampering the young miss. The next day, Annette's complexion wasn't the best. Shaquille D'Aubry asked, are you nervous? Annette replied, a little. Maybe because it's my first time. Father, could you find someone for me? Shaquille looked at Annette. Find someone. Annette elaborated, the person who helped me before. I want to thank her. The one who helped me avoid danger. She's someone who likes to do what's right, never overlooking injustice. I want to surprise her, so I need to know where she is. Her name is Dale, and she has a sick husband. Although Dale is a commoner's daughter, she's very talented in pharmaceuticals. I need her to treat the Duchess's illness. Brown hair, light blue eyes, in the capital or its outskirts. All right, but it might take a week or so. Annette was surprised. A week? That's short. Shaquille continued. How long do you think it takes to search in this vast area? Of course, it would be good to find her quickly, but without even a specific address. How can we find someone so fast? I feel sorry for the servants who have to run around. If we start research now, we can find a cure within 3 years. Although the report said it took Dale about 8 years to find the cure. If we increase the funding, never mind 3 years, it might be even faster. By then, her husband and the Duchess will have hope of surviving. The carriage stopped, and Annette, getting out, called, we're here. The young woman tugged on Shaquille's hand. All right, it's time to face that unfortunate connection from long ago again. Damn it, who in the world? Who knew about the fusion magic stone? I'm about to publish my fusion magic stone theory. How could this be such a coincidence? Hey, waiter, give me a drink. All that day and night toil, and it's just been snatched away. How long did I work on that? Robert White, known as the mad scientist, lamented his research funding constantly being cut, all his hard work stolen. The test subjects are dwindling too. If this continues, I won't be able to resurrect my sonar. If that's the case, even if I have to beg those warmongers for funding, I'll continue the fusion experiments. Hey, more drinks. Ladies and gentlemen, I would like to introduce Miss Annette D'Aubry, who has been awarded the honor of Scholar of the Year and will be attending tonight's banquet. Hearing her name, Annette hurried forward. With a friendly smile, she said, thank you. What? My rival is that brat. Damn it, this is why I hate rich people. They must have used their parents' money to inflate their achievements. This is preposterous. Oh, Dr. Robert White, you. You know me. Annette replied brightly, of course. You're the one who wrote the biomorphic fusion thesis, right? The one that was completely forgotten after it was published, right? I didn't expect you to know. Could this child be so intelligent, respecting me at such a young age? Yes, it's quite interesting. A strange creature had suddenly appeared beside Annette. Robert White felt a silent dread. Did this child create that? A combination of demon and beast. The strange creature continued to approach Robert White. What is this little girl saying? What's going on? The little girl spoke. Humans have interfered with God-given life. Good heavens, that thesis was also ignored for being too cruel. Quiet everyone. Annette interrupted. Father, this doctor is amazing. That thesis also talked about experimenting on humans, about creating a hybrid of humans and demons. Amazing, right? My God, this man has such disregard for life. He's truly corrupt. No, wait, this is all a lie. Every last word. Are you mad? There's a reason he's so panicked. First, his research is heavily backed by powerful figures, and it's still being conducted in secret. Second, his experiments on human subjects have never been thoroughly investigated. If these two facts come to light, his research career will end in darkness. Do you even know who you're talking to? How dare you be so insolent? You're the one who's mad. My God, haven't human experiments been banned? I heard it was to save his deceased wife. He dares to desecrate the life given by God. Such impiety. Throw this villain out. It's a disgrace to have someone like him in the scientific community. No, I didn't. I've never done anything like that. Are you just going to take that little girl's word for it? Is there any other reason? How could I possibly create that fusion thing? It's simply impossible. He's digging his own grave. Saying things like that will only lose him his funding. That's right. It's hard enough to secure a position outside the scientific community, let alone research funding. If the Scholar of the Year funding gets cut off as well. Let's find that paper and see what's true and what's false before we make any decisions. While I understand everyone's desire to appease the Scholar of the Year, everyone's gone silent. No one knows what to say. No wonder. It's not because of me. It's because they're respecting my father. I knew it. Why would they suddenly start talking to me? If I want information about the fusion magic stone, I'll have to behave. The association president will know what to do, so I won't interfere. Shaquille D'Aubrey picked up a glass from the bustling crowd. Your name is Robert White. I will make sure you never forget the fact that you were insolent to my daughter today. Carve it into your brain, regret it, and pray for time to rewind and beg for forgiveness. It was the young lady who was offensive first, Robert White subtly reminded him. You should be begging for mercy at a time like this. Why are you still arguing? If my obedient daughter acted rudely first, then you must have done something wrong. You're really scheming, aren't you? You must be quite upset. That's what the rumors about this guy are like. What reason do you have to blame my daughter? While I know Shaquille D'Aubrey has always been headstrong, I didn't know he could be this verbally abusive. I hope you live a long life, a life worse than an insect's. Father, you shouldn't bully him too much. Maybe I was mistaken. Not enough. Just being fired is too lenient for him. I'll make him suffer more. He'll certainly try his best to remember the fact that I read that paper in the old bookstore. I have to find it before he does. Dr. Robert is also a remarkably talented individual, isn't he? After this, under the looming presence of Duke d'Aubrey, the banquet officially began. Robert White stormed out of the banquet hall, and everyone gathered in groups and began to converse. It wasn't entirely devoid of women, however. There were about 2 women for every 10 men, though it still felt like the men were deliberately keeping their distance from the women. Annette's eyes widened as she heard a voice from across the room, a familiar voice. That noisy fellow is here. Son, that man is green. Duke Ignacio, the head of the Aubrey family, wielder of the green power, Duke Ignacio reminded him. I've told you many times, it's impolite to refer to people by their colors. Father Green? Oh no, the child standing next to Duke d'Aubrey is his daughter, Annette d'Aubrey. Annette peeked out from behind Shaquille D'Aubrey. Hello. I sensed it from the moment we first met. You're the type of person who likes to make themselves the center of attention, aren't you? Shaquille D'Aubrey's face stiffened. I'm truly speechless, Ignacio replied. You're happy to see me, right? Yes, me too. It's not good to make assumptions about other people's feelings. This child is completely different from the Duke. When they first met, Duke d'Aubrey said, I am Shaquille d'Aubrey, the second son of Duke Ignacio. This boy feels like a stark contrast to that Ignacio brat. It's surprising that this guy could raise such an upright child. Shaquille Ignacio replied, you must be tired too, right? This isn't something that just started yesterday or today. I'm used to it. Annette ran over to greet Shaquille Ignacio. Hello, I'm Annette d'Aubrey. Should I speak formally or casually? It's fine to speak casually. I'm Shaquille Ignacio. Then I'll speak casually too. While the children are playing together, let's go somewhere else and talk. Seal Diabri said coldly. This isn't something you need to concern yourself with. Ignacio put his arm around Seal Diabri's shoulder, acting friendly. Come on, let's go. Seal Diabri felt uncomfortable. Let go of me, Duke Ignacio. Wouldn't it be nice to pretend to walk around? Just let the two of them play together. However, it seems like other people are quite interested in us. Annette, do you want to go outside and take a break? Annette happily agreed. Going to the roof was considered a temporary break. It was an unspoken rule of the banquet not to disturb those already there. Amazing. How did you seem to read my mind? Thank you for helping me. Is this your first time at a banquet? Annette replied, yes, because I just joined the nobility. I see. I'm sorry. Annette waved her hand dismissively. It's okay. Because the Ignacio ducal family has the ability to control fire, their skin is dark. You must be very intelligent to be able to come to the association, right? I'm just attending a banquet organized by the Scholars Association. I'm not like the Ignacio children. Really, I think you're quite similar. How could that be? Besides the red eyes, what other similarities are there? My hair is black and my skin is white, but your eyes and personalities are similar. Are you serious? Annette continued, I'm sorry if I upset you. Because Duke Ignacio is straightforward, you also say whatever you want to say. So I think the two of you are very similar. I see. This is the first time I've heard that. Actually, I was born without power. I'm not good at fighting. My development is slow. My health is poor. And I can't even control weapons well. So this is the first time I've heard that. The way you squint your eyes when you have a sly smile is also very similar. You also have your own talents. Those makeshift weapons are no match for my father and brother. Annette encouraged Seal Ignacio. You will definitely surpass them. Such news has never been published in the newspapers, but I don't know why I still know that every future invention of his will shock the world. Annette also gave Seal a hint. The copyright for the fusion magic stone production method will belong to us. Although you can't sell fusion magic stones, you can use fusion magic stones to create other items and then supply them to me. What do you think? Hearing this, Seal couldn't help but feel surprised. Do business with the Diabri family's Green Continent Trade Association. However, Annette denied it. No, it's for me. Although I hope you can give me everything you create, it's also fine if you want to give it away or sell it yourself. I only need 50 to 60% of what you create, and I will calculate the profit distribution for you. Because I'm just starting out, I really hope to cooperate with excellent partners. Hearing this, Seal felt very grateful. Annette added, and I trust you very much because you're someone who loves inventing, someone who loves turning the ideas and imagination in your mind into reality. Compared to those who work hard, those who enjoy it can achieve more brilliant success. But even Seal didn't believe in himself, yet Annette gave him so much trust. She smiled and said, because I'm an observer, it's easier to trust others. Originally, believing in oneself is the hardest thing. As Annette conversed with her notebook, it declared that the story of this world was about to begin, that the protagonist of this world had already sensed an unexpected change, and so the story had commenced earlier than planned. Annette hadn't even grasped what the notebook meant when Seal suddenly stepped forward and asked, if you can promise me what I just said, then I agree to only supply you. It was then that Annette realized she'd missed what Seal had said. She thought it probably wasn't anything dangerous, so she agreed. Hearing this, Seal excitedly thanked her and promised to introduce his older brother to Annette. He even calculated the timeline from friendship to engagement, which flustered her. When did I agree to a blind date, let alone a promise of engagement? Annette said shyly, well, if you're content with just being friends. On the contrary, Seal affirmed, my brother is wonderful. You'll definitely like him. Although it still seemed like a blind date was inevitable, she had made some progress. Afterward, Seal and Annette returned to the main hall. Seal's father patted Annette's head and bid her farewell. Then Seal spoke up, reminding him, Father, you can't just pat another family's daughter on the head. With that said, father and son gave a final wave goodbye to the Diabri family and departed. Afterward, Annette asked curiously, Father, did something happen? But Shaquille only replied, nothing. What are you still waiting for? Nothing, I'm tired. Then let's go home. Hearing this, Annette thought, everything seemed fine when we met Duke Ignacio earlier. Why won't he look at me now? I'm so uneasy. Before that, Shaquille had been reprimanding Duke Ignacio. You've been bothering me since earlier. What do you want to say by dragging me here? Duke Ignacio said with a smile, Green, can I ask you directly, is that child really your daughter? This startled Shaquille. What are you trying to say? Duke Ignacio simply said, I'm not entirely sure, but I've heard some strange rumors about Zardan Village. You'd better look into it. I checked the Emperor's documents. I heard there's a little girl revered as a saint there. That child has green hair, purple eyes, and her name is Annette. What do you think, Green? Even so, Shaquille denied it. You're talking nonsense. But Duke Ignacio continued, listen, the reason that little girl is revered as a saint is because she has the power to emit a green light. Is that child really your daughter? Or rather, is that just what you believe? Hearing this, Shaquille immediately warned, don't talk nonsense. I know who my real daughter is. However, the truth was he already knew. My daughter is already dead. Her body was so mangled, I couldn't bear to look. Based on Shaquille's words, Duke Ignacio stopped questioning him about Annette, but added, what about the Duchess? You should think about it carefully. Do you need me to send the Zardan Village documents to your house? Shaquille, suppressing his anger, replied, I do. Upon their return, Annette couldn't help but worry. Did something really happen, father? Shaquille stroked her head and said, it's nothing you need to worry about. I'll be away from the estate for a while. Something came up. There's a plague in Zardan Village, and it seems divine power isn't working. There are some plants there with purifying effects, and with my power, the purification effect can be enhanced. Hearing this, Annette thought, is that the one called the Zeus flower? Shaquille was surprised. How did you know? Annette thought in confusion. What do? I know all about future events or changes, but I know nothing about plants. The name is different, but why does it feel both familiar and unfamiliar? I remember now, although Duke Oliggo eventually went there, no one in that village survived. It was gradually abandoned and disappeared from the map. It was also in that place that Shaquille Diabri met the protagonist of this world, Shigina Diabri. But she still found it strange why the name Shigina was used instead of Annette. Even if it was fake, if she were to play a real role, the name Annette should be used. She couldn't help but dwell on it. Unexpectedly, Shaquille spoke up, you seem distracted lately. Are you feeling unwell? But Annette denied it as always. This only deepened Shaquille's suspicions. Afterward, the Duke urged Annette to go inside. That day, Shaquille escorted her all the way to her room before turning to leave. Finally, some time alone, Annette thought, determined to make sense of the facts she'd learned that day. Before anything else, she addressed her notebook. Can you tell me about Zardan Village and Shigina? But still, the notebook remained silent. Annette was forced to plead, dear notebook friend, my kind friend. Then it replied, although as your best friend, the notebook wants to help you. Unfortunately, information about stories already begun requires a corresponding price. Annette was taken aback by this news. So suddenly, you're so stingy. What price? Is it the corruption? I've been trying to ignore this arm, but I can't keep pretending anymore. Why do I need this? After all, from the very beginning, it was because of those slowly corrupting drawings that I had to contact that crazy scientist, but now he's gone silent. Come to think of it, it's been so long without a reply. Does that mean he has no intention of answering my letter? If so, should I drag him out by force? Just the thought of it made Annette feel it was too much trouble, and besides, she couldn't resort to violence. But things had already come this far, and she wanted to end this second life happily. How could she reach that shadowy figure? Just then, the notebook instructed, close your eyes and imagine that place. Annette immediately obeyed. Imagining the place wasn't difficult. A moment later, she opened her eyes, astonished. I'm actually here. Then Annette encountered the notebook's physical form. She hadn't expected it to still be a mass of blackness. It asked her if she had heard about the price, and she acknowledged that she knew the price was the corruption. The entity also told her she could read freely. Although Annette replied, reading that much will kill me early, the notebook reassured her, corruption isn't necessarily a bad thing. It will also help you. Your bound talent will be fully developed. You'll understand soon. This surprised Annette. What talent? What does that mean? Who are you really? Are you curious about me? How should I tell you? I'm the same as you. I am your ending. Annette truly couldn't believe it. What are you talking about? The first time she saw a person entirely black, she thought it wasn't human, but that black being let her know it was the result of a body covered in ancient script. Then Annette asked, are you cursed like me? It nodded. You are the same kind of being as I am. Although I don't remember my past memories, the curse is the same, and it also started from something very small. Immediately, Annette reached out and touched the entity. Do you want to confirm that I'm telling the truth? But it seems this curse doesn't like you. Is it because it hates its own kind? Annette wanted to confirm again, so you're still alive. But the entity could no longer remember. Do you know how to break this curse? At the same time, Annette thought this person has been waiting here, unable to remember things that happened long ago. She hadn't expected this either. You can actually read minds. You must be very lonely. If it were me, I would have gone mad long ago. The entity said, I know everything about this world. So you know everything, but you can't do anything. So you feel pain, right? Because since you know everything, in the end, everything is meaningless to you. Hearing this, the entity remained silent. Annette continued to ask, every time I turn a page, will the corruption get worse? But the entity confirmed, to be precise, it's when the information you know exceeds the permissible range. I understand. Thank you. Afterward, Annette tried to understand the reason, when suddenly a warning sound rang out. The entity said, from now on, you can only turn to this page. You must pay the corresponding price. Okay, thank you for telling me. Afterward, Annette continued to flip through the pages, still wanting to learn more. Just then, the entity grabbed her hand and stopped her. Enough. Understand this information slowly. If you fall into it, you will make mistakes. The ancient text is brainwashing you in order to quickly erode you. Annette was shocked. Really? Thank you for helping me. No wonder I wanted to know that useless information just now. The entity replied, you're welcome, because if you are gone, it will be troublesome. Isn't she the only one who can step in here? Hearing this, Annette asked, if she is used as a medium, can't you leave this place? As long as she allows it. Then do you want to leave here with me? Forget it. If caught, the temple will take you away. Hearing this, Annette said, I'm fine. You just need to hide yourself well. Okay. This made the black entity suspicious. What does she want? Annette said in surprise, I don't want anything. You don't have to agree. I'm just afraid you're too lonely. You don't want to do this either. But the entity said, I'm only reluctantly going with you. I have the ability to perceive malice, which may help you. First, I need time to materialize. In short, the entity would come to see Annette later. The conversation ended, and Annette was still in a daze when she went back. Wait a minute. But it was too late. Annette had woken up from her dream, having slept poorly and feeling exhausted. Just after leaving her room, Annette suddenly heard a quarrel downstairs. What's going on? It seems to be coming from outside the courtyard. Is there an intruder? Wait, a letter. The man insisted, that's not it. The address is clearly here. The man was ragged, like a beggar, and twice the size of an ordinary person. What was frightening were his golden pupils, like a beast's. At this moment, Annette realized with surprise that this was the brilliant but eccentric scientist, Dr. Frick, whom she had invited. So he had already read the letter. Annette immediately shouted, wait. He's my guest. She hurried downstairs, thinking, great. I was worried that the ancient runes on my body were becoming increasingly difficult to hide. Then Annette quickly explained, although he looks a bit scruffy, this is the doctor I invited. This man is outstanding in his field of research, so I invited him here. It doesn't matter if he doesn't bathe, just get rid of the smell before entering the room. Okay. And Annette would definitely tell you how to get rid of the smell without taking off your clothes with just a bottle of air freshener. Dr. Frick said in surprise, perfume might not work. But Annette said, this is a neutralizing solution between cinnamon bark and Roxy. This scent is used to repel monsters. Just right. Okay, let's go in now. Frick was curious about many things, so Annette would answer everything for him, because in fact, she didn't want to steal his credit. Annette also said, you must keep everything that happens in this room a secret, and then I'll get straight to the point. Now I need an invention that can hide it. At that time, Annette thought, Dr. Frick is a simple man, so he won't lie, and I also know he's not the kind of person who would break a contract. Seeing the ancient runes on her hand, Frick quickly said, I'm not a wizard, although I can sense a dangerous smell. So Annette said, I'm not asking you to cure it, just to cover it up. Can't we use color-changing mucus? Frick replied, color-changing mucus can sense and change color to match the surrounding environment. When it encounters danger, it becomes as hard as steel. Even if you can catch it, it will escape. Annette joked with the doctor, this problem can be solved. Isn't there that blue flame? If it's a flame that can maintain that temperature, it should be able to ease the slime's tension. That way, you don't have to kill it to get some of the slime. Hearing this, Dr. Frick decided to do a little experiment, and Annette immediately had someone bring the equipment. She intended to sponsor Dr. Frick, even in the future, because she truly respected and admired him. It would be even better if all the odors could be completely removed. Hearing this, Dr. Frick asked, you don't mind everyone avoiding me? Annette admitted, yes, although the smell on you makes others uncomfortable, it's actually a very mild fragrance. They'll get used to it if you just change your clothes. Dr. Frick suddenly understood. He quickly took off his coat, surprising Annette. 10 layers of clothing. You're really bundled up. The doctor's appearance completely changed, better than I imagined. A little thin, but he looks younger than I thought. Suddenly, Dr. Frick asked, what about the agreement written in the letter? Annette suddenly remembered, of course, you'll get it. That's the condition you came for. Hearing this, Dr. Frick nodded. You're Annette, right? I believe you're of high standing, so we can speak more casually. Also, I have a question. What's that thing on the bed? It's not a beast, nor a monster. Annette was surprised. It seems there's a chest in my room, too. But doesn't this mean there's more to explain? Unexpectedly, Dr. Frick said, did you do something bad and combine a beast and a monster? Annette quickly explained, calm down, its name is Chess, and it's very happy now. But Frick retorted, a child should never have to endure such suffering. Then, gently stroking its face, Dr. Frick asked Annette, can I take it for research? I won't hurt it. I just want to know what kind of animal hybrid it is, what abilities it has. Annette said, if Chess agrees, I have no problem. It seems to agree very much. In short, Annette called a maid to follow her to the guest room, and then had Mary take the doctor away. Annette felt good. She had successfully settled Dr. Frick into the guest room. Next was getting permission to use the guest room. Going to see Rosanna Aubrey. Annette called out happily, Mother, everything went according to plan. Good, but why is Shaquille Aubrey here too? Mother, I'm sorry I can't visit you often. Rosanna said gently, you've been busy adjusting. I can't be a burden to you anymore, right? But to Annette, Mother is not a burden to me. So now I'm fighting alone to save Rosanna. When asked, Annette hesitated before replying, of course, it's because I missed you. Seeing this, Shaquille teased, liar, you're unhappy as soon as you see me. You probably want to say something you don't want me to hear, right? This startled and flustered Annette. If that's the case, then there's nothing I can do. Then she boldly addressed Rosanna, can I use the guest room? I invited a guest and want him to rest there. Rosanna asked for Shaquille's opinion. Annette also confirmed he's not a bad person. He's my business partner. Although he has a strong sense of self-importance and is a bit eccentric, he's definitely not a bad person. However, Shaquille couldn't help but be suspicious. But this is my residence. You should be asking me, not my mother. At that moment, Annette thought angrily, I have nothing to say to what he said. Suddenly Shaquille asked, but why did you suddenly call me father? This surprised Annette. Why did you suddenly mention that? Wait, could this childish duke be? Seeing this, Annette softly called out, Father, please. All right, finally, Shaquille agreed. Seeing this, Rosanna sighed, you've been calling me mother. Annette called out, Mother. Rosanna happily hugged Annette, and she was also moved. So warm. To let Rosanna rest, they quickly ended their conversation. Annette didn't forget to thank her father, Chankor. He brushed it off as nothing, then asked, but that woman you mentioned, I've found her. Can I tell you her location now? I want to meet her, Annette declared. Luckily, Shaquille agreed and had already extended an invitation. The Duke then took his leave. As he did, Annette thought to herself, if Gina is real, I'll step aside without a fuss. That warm embrace, that gentle face, it's what a child deserves. The realization struck her deeply. Suddenly, Annette called out, Father, take me to Zalden with you. Shaquille immediately questioned, how did you know about that? Mother knows too. Please, take me with you. But Shaquille firmly refused. No, I can't take you to a village in the throes of an unknown plague. Unexpectedly, Annette declared, I know how to cure that plague. This startled Shaquille. You say you know how to cure it. Though unable to explain how, Annette's resolve to go remained firm. Father, I will get your permission. She couldn't bear the thought of her father's suffering. Watching Annette's endearingly pleading expression, Shaquille was momentarily speechless. These decisions are made for the good of everyone. How many times have I told you not to try and wheedle your way through every problem? Fine, I agree. Overjoyed, Annette couldn't contain her excitement. She assured her father she wouldn't bring back anything strange. She also mentioned that the woman her father was looking for was near Zalden village. So now all that's left is, she thought, her hands suddenly trembling slightly. It's starting again. I barely know if this is a hallucination or reality. I can endure it now, but sooner or later, I won't be able to. Then Annette asked, Father, could you bring Duke Adewisi? If we're going to address the plague, we need him. You detest Duke Adewisi, don't you? Shaquille replied instantly, of course I don't like him, but you need him. As your father, I can only agree. Annette hadn't expected such leniency. She felt a lump in her throat, as if she'd been crying. Their relationship was such that even if there were affection, they would have to part ways in 5 years. Shaquille reminded Annette to be prepared. On a bright morning, Annette wearily stumbled out of the carriage. The road to Zalden village had been so rough, her stomach churned violently. She felt faint and could barely stand. "Go back now," Shaquille barked, his voice laced with concern. This startled her. As they approached the village entrance, the sound of coughing reached their ears. As long as they don't drink the well water, they won't be cursed. The people here mistakenly believe it's a plague. Just then, Duke Adewisi's voice boomed. "You're only arriving now. What am I doing here? This village isn't under my jurisdiction." Meanwhile, a young man from behind asked with interest, "Who is that?" Shaquille replied, "He's known as Duke Adewisi." Then he said, "Sabi, say hello." The young man promptly introduced himself. "My name is Sabine Guards. I'm 13 years old." Annette couldn't help but be surprised. So he's Duke Adewisi's son. But his gaze was unsettlingly sharp, making Annette flinch. "What's with him? His eyes, they feel so dark when he looks at me." Entering the village, the villager's condition was indeed dire. Shaquille clicked his tongue. This isn't good for morale. A villager excitedly recognized them. "Your Grace, it's an honor to have you travel so far. I'm the village head. My name is O.M." Annette was taken aback to see even the village head afflicted. Why resort to such wickedness? Even if they choose to suffer and tremble underground, I won't feel sorry for them. Shaquille then located the well, the gathering place of everyone. "I hear there's an empty house in the village," Annette said. "Let's go there and rest for a bit," she added, turning to her father. "All right, father." Shaquille continued questioning O.M. about the origins of the contagion. O.M. explained that the first infected person had fallen ill 7 months prior and was now in the worst condition. "So, did anything unusual or out of the ordinary happen 7 months ago?" Annette inquired. At her question, the village head stammered nervously, No, that's a false accusation." Annette's offer of a chance to recant went unheeded. After a moment of hesitation, O.M. continued, "But fortunately, a saint has been helping us. Everyone's condition is improving." At this, Annette couldn't help but express her confusion. "Wait, there's a saint in this story, too." O.M. led them towards their lodgings, but Annette persisted with her questions. "What exactly is a saint? What does that even mean?" Suddenly, Shaquille stopped Annette. "Hold on. Let's go rest first." At this point, Annette seemed to have a realization. "Why are you keeping this from me? Could the saint's true identity be that child?" Shaquille's tone shifted, taking on an interrogative edge. "Anissa," he said, using her nickname, "what was the condition for coming here?" Anissa remained silent, perhaps unsure of how to respond. Shaquille's expression grew serious. "Listen carefully," he said. "If you understand, go inside and rest. I'm going to look around the village today. You stay here, and don't go near Adewisi, understand?" Having already agreed, Anissa had little choice but to comply. "Honestly, now's not the time to rest." Suddenly, Sabi whispered in her ear, "You're here, aren't you? There's something I've been wanting to say for a while now." Anissa figured this was better than awkward silence. "Really? What is it?" After a few seconds of silence, Sabi looked at Anissa with a mischievous glint in his eyes. You have a terrible smell." Anissa paused, taken aback, trying to pick a fight the moment we meet. "Oh, thanks for telling me. But your manners are pretty terrible too." Sabi's expression remained nonchalant, and Anissa wasn't about to back down. "Calling someone smelly the moment you meet them. What's with this noble brat?" But Sabi continued his critique. "You smell of a curse. It's foul. What do you want me to do? Are you cursed?" Anissa thought to herself, this guy is strange. Did Lord Adewisi tell you that? Sabi wore a smug expression. Father only said there was an interesting young lady. I can sense curses and magic through scent, and the stench of the curse on you is the most putrid I've ever encountered. Such bluntness made Anissa uncomfortable. "Oh, really?" Sabi asked curiously. "Does Duke Aubrey know about this?" Anissa shook her head. "No, and I don't plan on telling him." Sabi's steps grew closer. "That's a shame. Perhaps he could help." Anissa pondered. "Does he think I'm an idiot? He says that so casually." "Of course not." He seems to be getting closer. Sabi's face drew nearer to Anissa's, and his hand grasped her small hand. Anissa struggled violently. "Hey, what are you doing?" Sabi inquired. "Is this the source of the curse?" He truly seemed to know more than Anissa had anticipated. Sabi's words were a complete shift from what he'd said before. "Don't worry, I actually quite like the smell. I'm completely obsessed with curses, so I think I'm starting to like you too. A person carrying such a terrible curse. Anissa cursed him under her breath. This lunatic spouting nonsense. Is he a dog? Beside an obnoxious handshake, what does this guy know about curses, daring to speak such drivel? Sabi's grip tightened. I'm so jealous. I wish I could carry such a curse myself. Anissa, surprised by Sabi's casual words, reached out. Hey! Grabbing Sabi by the collar, Anissa shouted, are you really that jealous of this curse? Then why don't you take it yourself? You call this a gift. Say you're jealous. This is a miserable curse that even rags wouldn't want. Sabi's previous arrogance vanished completely. Aren't you going to let go? Let go. Annette seethed, her grip tightening on Sabi's collar. What do you know? Do you know what it feels like to be eroded every single day? To be consumed by fear and anxiety, terrified you might never open your eyes again. To lie awake all night, unsure when today will bleed into tomorrow. Do you know what it's like to feel your body wasting away, melting, losing all sensation? What I felt yesterday, I can't feel today. What I saw minutes ago vanishes in an instant. Do you think you can comprehend the agony of living while rotting? How dare you approach someone cursed to die this way and say you envy them? How dare you utter such words in front of the parents who watched you grow every day while you're decaying, clinging desperately to life? If, after hearing all this, you still feel envy, then I sincerely hope you become just like me. Annette released Sabi's collar. Why didn't I say anything before? The mere fact that you have to ask proves how privileged you are. Perhaps you've never had to consider protecting someone. If I spoke only to make myself feel better, then I wouldn't be the only one suffering. In truth, if there were even a sliver of hope for salvation, perhaps I would have spoken. I would have cast aside my pride and doubts, clung to someone's leg, and begged for my life. And that proud but kind person would surely have delivered. But there's no known way to break this curse, and there's already been a death from an incurable disease in the Aubrey dukedom. Everyone I know would pity me, desperately trying to save me. A seemingly normal young lady, now burdened with a curse akin to an incurable disease. How do you think the rumors would spread? How would the family face the world? Just revealing my condition would turn this place into a living hell. Tears welled in Annette's eyes. Damn it, I really don't want to cry. Suddenly, Sabi's voice cut through her anguish. Hey, Annette, are your prayers killing you? I'm sorry, I didn't realize it was this serious. Annette was truly disheartened. I feel a bit embarrassed. No, that's not right. No matter the curse, he shouldn't have been so dismissive. Forget it, I'm going inside. Sabi moved to block her path. Wait, let me help you. Annette's voice sharpened. I told you to leave me alone. But Sabi was persistent. If I leave, I'll feel like I owe you something, and I hate that feeling. He reached out and gently touched her hand. I know a lot about curses. My father does too, so there must be a way to lift yours. If worst comes to worst, let's get married, curse and all. We'll find a solution. If you become part of my family, I promise anything is possible. Annette stared at him. Do you have some kind of family heirloom or something? If this curse could be solved so easily. No, I can assure you, as a good and faithful friend, this curse is unbreakable. Sabi's expression was earnest. Our family does possess an heirloom capable of breaking any curse, but the curse of Anasaw can never be undone. A flicker of realization crossed his face. Consider this my way of atoning for my careless words. If you're willing, I'd like to send you a marriage proposal. He continued to follow her, but Annette remained resolute. Stop it. You can't do this. Sabi seemed bewildered. No, but if you come to my house. Annette cut him off. You don't even know what my curse is. I don't know the specifics, but I can't even read anymore. The amount of time I've wasted. Look, I want to be alone. Something just flashed in the bushes. I want to be alone. Don't follow me. Shikar's thoughts echoed Annette's turmoil. In all my life, I've never truly been surprised. There's little in this world that can astonish an Aubrey, but this case is different. Annette felt a pang of guilt. I'm sorry, I couldn't fully heal you. But the woman held no resentment. Oh, thank you. If it weren't for the Saintess, I would have. Even at her young age, Annette possessed a remarkable humility. That title is too heavy for me. I just feel fortunate to be able to help. The child, with eyes and hair like Shikar's. The image resonated with a longing he couldn't quite place. When she saw Shikar, Annette treated him like any other visitor. Oh, who are you? If you need help, please join the queue over there. Shikar felt a wave of frustration. Oh no, Anasaw laughed. It seems this is the first time we've seen the green power. This power can only be inherited through the Shocker bloodline, unless... This child, seeing this, Duke Adawasi spoke up. If you're tired, let me. But Shikar stopped him. No, let me do it. I was sent to the capital to resolve this plague. Who are you? Annette slowed her speech. I'm Annette because I'm an orphan. I don't have a last name. If you're not sick, I apologize, but there are many others who need my help. Shaquille couldn't believe that after searching for so long, this was happening now. Since when have you been able to use that power? Annette didn't hide anything. I don't know. It just started at some point. Duke Adowisi interjected. We must consider the current situation first. Shaquille said uncomfortably, I know, calm down. We're here to work. Investigating the plague is the most important thing. The plague seemed more serious than he'd imagined. If the entire village was infected, it was only a matter of time before it spread to other villages. If they impose an immediate lockdown, these people would be in an even more difficult situation. If they didn't, things would get worse. But that child said she knew how to cure the disease, right? Actually, maybe she was just lying to stay with him. As soon as he thought of Annette, she sneezed. Shaquille walked on, lost in thought. But had she ever talked nonsense before? Even in dangerous situations, she would never lie or speak carelessly. If that was the case, Adowisi blocked Shaquille's path. Hey, the power that child used just now, it looked like the green power. Could the child we just saw be? That's not my power. It must be divine power or something. Adowisi wouldn't give up. Could the child you're taking care of be an imposter? He didn't want to answer anymore. Forget it. How many times do I have to tell you to shut up? Adowisi continued. We can't abandon a child with the power of a ruler. Shaquille said irritably. Then what do you want me to do, Duke? You mean I should announce everywhere that the child is a fake? Even my wife, who finally found her daughter and believes it without a doubt. Even though from the beginning, we didn't know if it was true or not. Adowisi didn't seem to care what he was saying. Wouldn't it be happier to find the real child rather than mistakenly believing in one who isn't yours? Shaquille shouted, why are you suddenly interfering in other people's affairs? It's been a while, and you've become even more nosy than before. But Adowisi must have had his reasons for saying that. If we find a real child, then this child will have nowhere to go. I intend to take her and care for her. Shaquille clenched his fists. What strange things are you saying? Adowisi offered a multitude of justifications. Isn't it too cruel to send a child who's lived like a noble back to an orphanage? It seems she's already accustomed to a noble life, so I want to take care of her. I also have a son of the same age. She could be my daughter-in-law. Shaquille was losing his mind. You're insane. Adowisi emphasized. Anyway, you've already found your real daughter. This has nothing to do with you. She's just an imposter. But a noise behind them made them both turn around. Shaquille called out hesitantly, Annette. Annette had heard what they said. She was utterly shocked. Minutes earlier, Annette had been chasing someone. Wait, it's clearly a child. I thought it was a cat, but it's definitely a child. That means it must be those two brothers' sister, the only one who can't use the well water. Though dirty, she's still wearing proper clothes. And her skin doesn't show any signs of infection like the others. Only those brothers know how to get to a certain place in the well. Hey, little one, don't be so scared. Misa was terrified. Don't follow me. Annette tried to reassure her. I'm sorry. I just wanted to talk for a bit. Misa was on the verge of tears. This is our house. You came in without permission. You're a bad person. Anissa said, surprised, you're home. Do you mean this place? The village chief let us use this house. Honestly, judging by its size, her family must have been quite wealthy in the village. But the village chief said, this house has been abandoned for a long time. My family and I are staying here temporarily because the village chief said we could use it. Can you tell me what happened? Misa suddenly burst into tears. The village chief is a bad person. Anissa comforted the little girl. Don't cry. I see. That must have been very difficult. I'm sorry. By the way, could you tell me your name? Truthfully, Anissa already knew the child's name, but perhaps confirming it. The little girl sobbed, my name is Misa. She was the key to ending the brothers' reign of terror.